Hello everybody, and welcome to Case 3, Episode 1's very first Director's Commentary. My name is Mr. G. I am the director and owner of Elements of Justice, and thank you all for being here today. For those of you who've never been to a Director's Commentary before, this is where we come to discuss the episode, talk about interesting elements of what happened, why we chose to do certain things, just give you all a good amount of context to the things that we're doing. I'm going to quickly just drop the audio because I realise I've got it a bit loud right now. But yes, I cannot have a director's commentary without other people around who I've directed. So we're going to introduce everybody else here today. So if we can start with Shannon.
Hello! It is I, Shannon Evans! Not director. Not the director. I'm tired, that's it. Okay. I am the team leader of the riggers, as well as the concept artist and past voice actress, and I just do a lot of stuff with this project.
What do you know? Live chat is also saying all hail Shannon.
No! Dang it!
All hail Shannon! All hail!
No!
All hail Shannon!
One day you will escape that. Maybe. I don't know. Just stop doing work. Like me. Gang, I do too much work too.
You can't stop working. You're a writer.
I don't know. We'll get to that when it's my turn anyway.
Speaking of work, up next we have Bruno.
Hello guys, I'm Brunosky. I'm team leader of the editors and, also an editor. I have worked on plenty of the scenes you'll be seeing shortly.
He did stuff. He worked on this episode, and I'm very proud of it. Yes. Especially scene 1 as well. What was it? Which scenes was it again? It was scene 1 and scene...
Scene 1 and 5.
Scene 1 and scene 5, so beginning and end, which is very impressive. Up next, we have... you, Jarvy.
Writer who lived, aka me. Hi, I'm Jarvy Jared. I'm the team leader of the writers and the musicians, and I did some stuff in this episode too. It was pretty neat. I haven't been sitting on this episode script for a year, totally, and the plans for this episode for a year and a half, totally. No, why would I do that? I'm a very expeditious individual.
Imagine a writer working so much in advance.
I know.
I have not slept in 3 days.
Really?
But that's besides the point. No, I'm joking. It's a bit. I'm being funny. I thought funny.
I was concerned because I was supposed to be keeping you up for 5 days straight, so you only haven't been able to sleep 2 out of 5.
Sorry, I'm behind schedule.
Yeah, catch up, man. Sleep deprivation.
You're right. In the next episode, so...
He's going to start trying to spoil it, but he can't.
please.
Say it!
You can't.
Keep your mouth clean, Jarvy. I warn you.
I have a little note attached to my screen that says, "Shut up, idiot." I don't know who it's for, but I think it's for me.
You think it's... yeah. Well, hopefully one of your other writers will be able to confirm whether it is. Up next, we have James.
Hello, this is James, another one of the writers, and I also helped with the music in this episode, the allocation of certain tracks. And like Jared, a lot of things in this episode are kept secret for up to about 3 years for certain
Jesus
tracks.
Christ. Oh.
Yeah. Certain tracks, because we knew what we were getting into with certain events.
Oh,
so
man.
some tracks are about 3 years old.
Some lines are...
These guys are going back
you
into their history.
Bleak.
That's breathing heavily.
Right. And finally, rounding out the rear, but by no means least either, Null.
Oh yeah, last but not least, originally a background artist, I am now Null, team leader of the artist department. Very happy about that. I lead the team, and recently just started handling some of the human vectorization, which is very cool, and you might see some of that here.
You might.
Really
Who
cool.
knows?
I believe so, if I'm not wrong.
No, you're not. Don't worry.
You're not.
Okay, I think
We have humans in ample supply. Do not you worry. Make sure of it.
But-
I'm the writer who lived.
For now, anyway. But yes.
For now, anyway. For it remains to be seen.
Exactly, quite.
It's up for debate.
But yes, that is your director's commentary crew for today. I'm going to just quickly, before we get into the episode, talk a few things that are of particular note. So, previous DCs, we weren't very consistent, and that was mostly just down to our inconsistent release schedule. Now, if you have been keeping up with the rumour mill, you may or may not know that we are planning to be a lot more consistent this year. And as a result, I want to try and make these director's commentaries consistent alongside the consistency squared, if you will. So when it comes to these, expect them to be releasing 1 to 2 weeks after the episode drops. And this will all be dependent, of course, on scheduling and getting people together. But it should enable you all to get enough time to enjoy the episode, since they are going to be smaller, as you will have seen, and also just come up with any sort of questions / keep on talking about the episode even after a week after it's been released. And there's a lot to talk about. Don't worry, we have a lot we want to say. I also want to say thanks to everyone for their response to episode 1. It's been quite interesting, to say the least, seeing it from our side. We were, as Jarvy mentioned, we have been waiting and sitting on this for quite some time. So to see it all come to life and to see people reacting the way you are is genuinely great. Some reactions are more interesting than others, and there are a lot of things that we've been kind of reading as well that we want to touch upon. So, if you have a question that isn't answered, wait until the end of each scene, because we will be taking live questions from the chat as well. And then before we get into it, there's one more thing I really want to do. I have been non-stop talking about this for ages, but I have to once again talk about it. Obviously, before we released episode 1, we had the update to our poster, which is now on screen. And I kind of just really want to talk about this again, because I have one of the half of people who helped make this, which is Shannon, and the other half was Nosebleed, one of our artists. And if you haven't seen this already, go and look on the TV Tropes page, look on the MLP wiki, it's there. There's a lot here, and at some point, not today, because we can't right now, but maybe at a later date, we'll kind of divulge some of the things, because there's a lot of things that you should be looking out for in this poster. You probably can see some already if you've got a keen eye.
Yeah, I wish I could say anything to you. Bait. This is bait. This is bait for me.
Gagging. Well, wait until we get into the actual episode yourself, because there are some points I know that you are dying to say stuff that you won't be able to.
I'm so dying. I've been dying perpetually. I'm the writer who lived. But I'm not alive.
Speaking of writing, I need to quickly pass to you briefly to talk a little bit about the main thing that's changed, or one of the big things that have changed, and that is the naming of the fact that we now have names for the episodes. And we've also updated previous ones. But could you just briefly give a quick sort of a thing about what the inspiration for this episode's name, and also kind of why we decided to go along that route?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it was something that when we started actually talking in more elaborate detail about just the Case 3 story, it was an idea that I sort of just floated in with this idea of how can we make it new, right? When I looked at Turnabout Storm, but then also at EOJ, there's a distinct lack, really, of titles in the traditional sort of television and also chapter sense. And I thought that, hey, if Case 3 is meant to be this sort of new start, new for everything, we could do something fun where we work in these interesting titles that are meant to represent or intrigue the viewer or the audience, suggest to them a particular kind of idea or theme or intonation or something like that. In this episode, obviously, which is titled, Hindsight and Foresight, this is actually taken directly from the little monologue at the end of scene 4 that Sonata has to the black screen. Something that I wanted to work in as a general practice for the writers then was every episode presumably should have a line that can turn into a title. Obviously, you don't put the full line in, but you'd pick up a few choice words and does that seem thematically strong? Does that seem to give an desirable effect that we want to provide to the audience? And that'll be the title of the episode from there on. And you also see, actually, if you look back at the Case 2 episodes, we've also gone and done that retroactively. G helped us with giving us a couple of ideas. The writers and I were all working together to come up with some, thematically appropriate or even funny ideas for titles. Striped Sonnets was my curse because Zakora. But yeah, the whole point was we want to approach the writing of not just this episode, but all episodes going forward as though it's this new artistic endeavor. And that comes down to using the tools that we have in our arsenal. And while a title is relatively insignificant in size, the fact that we choose to use a title, the fact that we choose certain phrases, I think will invite eagle-eyed viewers to think about, what are we saying when we make that choice? Why is that, in essence, the focus of the episode? Hence why this title is Hindsight and Foresight.
Brilliant. That's a really, really nice way of putting it all together. Thank you, Jarvy. So, yep, we've now been making episode names, and every episode going forward will have a name. So keep an eye out for next episode, which I won't spoil here, because that would be a bit too nice, wouldn't I? But maybe, who knows? If you ask some great questions, I may consider giving that away as a free teaser. But yes, that is, I think, enough at the introductions. I think it's time we get into some director's commentary. What do you all say? You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's do it!
This is where it all breaks. All right, let's begin. Scene 1, a terrifying trial. And I forgot to mention, actually, yes, I added scene names as well. Though that was very much a last-minute thing. Right. The Manhattan District Court, courtroom number 2, and X's as well. That's the best part. The attack of the X, I think someone once said. Now,
What? What is overall doing there? Oh my gosh, 3D camera!
the shot pan was honestly such a big moment. Though, if you look closely, and if you were very eagle-eyed, you may have noticed that there's actually a little shift because the lineup didn't quite happen to work out. So if you go back, you may notice a little shift between where Celestia was and where the next shot happens when they start speaking. Little fun thing that we couldn't quite fix there. But yeah, here we are in the Manhattan courtroom with Overall on trial and Celestia presiding. And I know that when this was released initially in the UK PonyCon, it was quite the reaction as well, which was even better. A lot of people. I'm trying to remember, someone screamed something at the top of their lungs. I can't remember what it was now. Do you remember, James?
I can't. It's been too long.
Somehow Overall has returned.
Oh yeah, and this version is a lot different from that earlier teaser. We did a lot of adjusting on poses, on timings. So whoever saw that earlier teaser, they may be able to tell the difference, even beyond this new rendering style.
Also, shout out to Elna Humble, as it goes by my credits for voicing Overall and giving voice to this funny bohemian little pony.
Yes.
Very humble. It's very pleasant.
Yay!
And of course, credit to from Shadow for Celestia.
Very good. Thank you for doing my job for me.
You got I Am Shadow. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Not even just for one character as well.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's really neat. I Am Shadow is really big in the audio drama community, so thank you for voicing her.
Since I properly watched a production myself or performed in one.
Nice little reference or call forward there, I believe, with that line.
Yep. A little bit of a what's it? Pony play Celestia games. I totally know the name.
And speaking of ponies, another one appears, and it is our dear friend Sonata.
I love her.
She's so funny in this opening scene. I think people were a little caught off guard, not consciously then unconsciously, that she's this nervous. Because they're used to her characterization in 2-4, but I think this is a good way of us showing that not only is this occurring at a different place and time, it's a different sort of Sonata, and I think that
wouldn't say he was. No.
And I can't say anything about this stupid thing on screen.
Not now,
I was hoping they were
later.
finishing my point, but I couldn't. Anyway,
I can point out that
Sonata.
her poses are actually reminiscent of Mia, for anyone that has played Trials and Tribulations. It's a very nice touch.
That is a
Yeah,
very
the
nice
little-
touch.
Isn't it like the
Very few,
her thinking is very much, when she's
Yeah.
eating her hoof.
Yeah.
The hair flip as well.
Spoilers, whoa, we haven't gotten there yet.
Everybody's seen the episode.
I haven't. What?
Well,
Or
no, I'm
have
kidding.
they?
I have. I
Have they?
obsessively have watched the episode over and over.
I'm also going to quickly pause here. The very first pause of our entire DC to talk about a little thing that we had to kind of briefly. I feel we need to briefly touch on. So let's get some music on as well because we're paused for a minute. Let's go with this track. Oh, that's a nice track. So, Celestia in this moment makes a comment about Sonata having served a 6-month prison sentence and after that having done 6 months of attorney training. Now, interestingly enough, at a while ago, very long time ago, in 1.3, there is a comment made by a certain now dead stallion of the name of Royal Order. And for anyone who doesn't know exactly, it's during this scene that I've just put on the screen. He makes a comment along the lines of that she has been in prison for 8 months. In the overarching sense, the reason that there's a bit of an inconsistency here is down to a multitude of factors. The simplest being, we've had to go through quite a lot of different rewrites. There's been a lot of different inputs, a lot of different changes here and there. And the initial starting point we've all started from was 1.5 years, which we all kind of have taken as the sort of gospel time period between when TES5 has happened, Turnabout Storm, I should say, and the point we are at now. However, when you think of it in dates, technically, the time between when Turnabout Storm takes place, which is June, and February, is about 1 year and 8 months. So, what are you, the fans, supposed to be listening to? This is one of those moments where things, as I say, come down to just a simple case of things changing kind of often, and sometimes a lack of clear planning. What Royal Order says is incorrect. And I'll make that clear. Royal Order is incorrect. He is meant to say 6 months. If you are following the timeline as a sort of 1 year, 8 month thing, trying to line up, it doesn't kind of work anyway, because the June 11th date, or sorry, June 10th, I can't quite remember how many days Turnabout Storm goes over now off the top of my head. I think it's 3 days.
June 11th, I think, is when it ends.
Right, so about June 9th.
Roughly two.
It's the second day is actually my birthday.
Oh, a fun fact. But yeah, so June 9th, roughly when it begins, is technically in the human universe. And likewise, when we follow through the dates, February, I think it's 11th we start for us. February 11th is also in the human world. And we've already established that the human world has traversed like 8 years. So even if you wanted to line up the dates with TS5, it doesn't work anyway because the dates are technically, well, as I say, based on human time. So to wrap up a very minor point, but something I think needs to be highlighted if you're trying to follow timelines, is Royal Order is incorrect here. It's 6 months Sonata has served in prison and 6 months to get her training on the bench. But even though I've made a big mountain on this, it's not really that essential. So don't worry too much. This hasn't really got any long-term consequences, but I thought I'd make a point of it because I have seen some very committed fans making some theories on times, and I don't want you to be misled by incorrect facts and figures.
Lesson here is don't trust a stallion whose greatest accomplishment was dying.
getting
as they
whacked.
say, as the cool kids say, that is weak sauce. And also, have you seen his handwriting? I don't think he knows how to write. I don't know if he knows how to read. Poor stallion. He's a little confused. He's got the spirit. He also wasn't great at being a dad, but hey, he meant well. Don't trust him.
Trust him. He's a bad pony. But But yeah, that's the only point I wanted to
smelly.
raise there. But yes, so that's like I suppose you can say one of those few things that gets retcon, but not really. So, but without further ado, let's get back into the rest of the episode, and I will quickly pause out the music there, and we can get started again. Now.
Speaking frankly, Miss Sonata, I believe that's something to be proud of.
It wasn't just me, though.
Oh yeah, Moonlight Sonata is playing here, right?
That's right.
Does that really
Yep.
And it's
I
re-
had to. Yeah, we so Moonlight Sonata, even though it's in the copyright-free domain,
I can't focus
there were
on
recordings of it that are not, and we didn't want to get
what I'm doing now.
struck if we used any of those recordings. So I just
One way or another.
made it myself.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah,
Of
that's
course.
about it. It kind of fits, it's Sonata. You gotta pull it back. It's Sonata. I mean, I could nerd out about Sonata's themes. However, this isn't Case 2 where I was suffering endlessly
I
under
am,
clock
Your Honor.
boxes and sonatas and all that. But
Well,
we just did that in order to avoid the copyright, and it worked out pretty nicely.
and speaking of introductions,
And that's what we call timing.
Oh,
Whoa, new theme.
wow.
Well, who's up? Who's this? Who's her?
who's this? Who this pony? And we'll let this
What
whole
is
thing play out.
Pone?
The great and powerful Trixie!
Trixie!
Always ready, Your Honor.
And only a minute after we've gone from our first pause, we have another pause here, I believe,
Ooh.
because Bruno, you wish to make a comment about this, and I'm getting the music back up again.
Yep. Well, here's something interesting. That sequence was done as it was written in the script. As you can see, even with the bombastic music and all, it's pretty subdued, all things considered. So, when the editor who started on the scene, Neo, she read that scene and thought it didn't quite feel right for Trixie to have such a subdued intro. So she had this idea to come up with something a bit more grand, a bit more bombastic. When I took over the scene, I decided to continue that idea, and we created a sequence that, well, I don't want to show it completely, but G, if you could show the image.
It's up on screen now for you.
Ah, awesome. So yeah, I had an idea for the sequence based on what Neo was planning, and I created it. Then I sent it for polish, and it caused a bit of a discussion in the polish phase. Since there's a whole discussion about character intent and how we wanted to set up this scene. So G, maybe you could give some more input as to how you consider this more bombastic version of the scene compared to the more subdued original plan that we stayed with.
Yes. So, as Bruno rightly mentions, there was a really, really strong suggestion by Neosi, and in genuinely, it still is impressive, and it's something that may or may not, have some value later. But when we were coming to look into the scene itself, I had to consider the general context in which we were introducing Trixie for the first time, and whilst I definitely agreed with the energy, we're in a closed courtroom, no gallery, or as one note put here soundly by James says, no bitches. You thought you were going to get away from being able to say that, James, but I snuck it in there. I decided, and argued that we needed to keep things a bit more subdued. We needed to give Trixie that element of, building momentum without it being too over the top. Because again, there's no audience. She has no one to perform to. She has no one that she is necessarily having to keep this persona up for. There's only 3 ponies in the courtroom with her. It just didn't feel like it would suit it. And whilst, again, I still think that the alternative entrance has some really, really strong value and I want to see it used, I'm still quite happy with how we ended up choosing to go with this particular entrance. And I know that there is still some disagreement on that probably, but in retrospect, I'm still quite happy with that decision. That's all I have to really say about that.
Yeah, there have been instances before where an editor decision that didn't go quite in line with the script has been accepted, but this wasn't one of those chances. Still, an interesting clip.
Yes, and as I say, there's still value to it, so who knows, maybe one day it will be seen. Who knows?
It's also interesting just because the subdued introduction, it contrasts the bombastic nature of her song, which is, that's a pretty cool effect. That's what we like.
That's true. That's actually a very good point.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of the song, great and powerful revival.
Yeah, that was fun.
Reference to a little Edgeworth.
It's a very tongue-in-cheek reference. It's great and powerful. It's Trixie's thing, and Revival is Edgeworth's thing. It really is just closer to a mashup between Great Revival, which is Edgeworth, and then just Trixie's song, Tricks Up My Sleeve from Rainbow Rocks. But it was a lot of fun, very bombastic. It was great to work in just the very performative aspect of the piece. I think especially when you get to the guitar, and then you get to like the Gaelic choir at the end. It's very much like, wow, Trixie, you are so extra.
Trixie's so back.
She's great.
It's definitely the
She's
most energetic song in this whole scene.
Yes.
Ba, ba, ba. It just goes
track.
hard.
Yeah.
Right.
We were getting
I
some
think
nice
we're
comments
good.
saying that they really enjoyed the songs that we gave Trixie, and I was really happy with that.
Your work has been greatly appreciated, and genuinely, it is quite a lot of fantastic tracks. And there's one in particular that we are all looking forward to going into absolute depth about later. No prizes for whichever one I'm referring to, but we still have a lot of episode to get to. So, without further ado, I think we should get back into the swing of it, shall we?
Let's go.
Swing, I get
I
it.
had no idea the circus was back in town. Was that really necessary?
But of course.
Was it really
What is
necessary?
a performer if she does not perform?
And yes,
This is
some
fun
people have
stuff to
commented
write.
Thea.
Star if she does not act as though
I was going to
she
just make the
is
comments
Well,
about Thea being our Trixie, and wonderful performance there as well.
Shout out to Thea, getting the right amount of just energy, just the. I don't even know if we call it. It's just she's Trixie. It's Trixie. Yeah, when they embody the character and it just becomes the character. I think that shows that the performance is working and it's functional and it's great.
Yeah. And she does have a lot of tricks up her sleeve because this rig, Trixie's rig, has 19 poses.
Yeah.
God, so extra.
I counted. And for those wondering, why? Why 19 poses? That's how many she had in Turnabout's time.
Oh, really?
Well,
Really?
the court is quite
Yeah, near that amount. We only added like one or two new poses.
Minor to put Trixie's eccentricities to bed.
But
Huh.
yeah.
What that means for her skill as a prosecutor.
Well, would you look at that?
Now that both
Now have
the
you
defense and
imagined?
prosecution are ready.
Man, we've come a long way with Riggs from Turnabout Storm to Case 3,
Your
huh?
opening statement, if you would,
Isn't that the
please.
truth? There's been a lot of pain to get there as well, and I do have to give major props to the animator and rigging team, everyone who's participated in
Yeah.
that, because
Yeah.
Absolutely.
not easy.
Oh god, this part.
Oh, hey! Look, it's cutie pie!
it's our favorite.
This is my worst decision.
Cutie
I've ever
pie!
made.
Jarvy, tell the class what you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, so SP Pentamimia. Everyone loves the SP Pentamimia and the Estella Pentamimias. This is the worst decision I've ever made. Ever. I mean, and I've been working on EOJ for 4 years and a couple months, right? The name was the worst thing I could have ever asked the VAs to attempt to say, ever. They didn't know how to pronounce this name. I didn't know how to pronounce this name. No one knew how to pronounce this name. Eventually I sat down and said, I'm gonna have to record myself to actually give like direction for the VAs to figure out like how do you pronounce pantomimia? Is it pantomimia? Is it pantomia? We had a lot of VAs
Pantomima?
just dropping that extra syllable, and I was like, do we change it to that because it's so much easier? It was we can't do anything about it now because it's her name, it's canon, it wouldn't make sense to change it, but for all the
Literally
VAs out there,
Literally every VA pronounced it pantomima.
God,
It
It
was
was just-
impressive.
why do we choose this name? I mean, my only explanation is pantomime is a funny word, and the cadence of Estela, pantomime, like that little auditory little effect. I like that. Unfortunately, it's just the fucking worst thing to ever say. I just cursed on stream. I'm so sorry.
Well, he's banned.
You know the funny thing? She's Stella, nickname Stella, without the starting E.
Yeah.
I recall telling you that I thought, wait, how would those two words be pronounced different? They're just the same word. And I think that was a bit of my English second language speaking, since
because I was like, I can see where you're coming from. It's technically right and wrong. It's language. And I was like, I'm not prepared to talk theory about here because I don't know, dude.
But the VAs caught up to pronouncing those differently, yet they still got tossed around by pantomimia.
Yeah. By the way, G, I don't know if you showed the image because I tabbed out to look at the notes here.
Yes, there was I have to prepare these images. I need to let everybody in the chat know. I have to spend a lot of time preparing for this live stream, and I was given a wonderful resource and asset that I had to equally prepare. So you may all now feast your eyes on this wonderful piece of art. That I just... Why this is in my stream, I do not know. Why I've allowed this to be in my stream, I do not know. But
I drew that. I spent an inordinate amount of time drawing this for this particular moment because I knew this is my cakewalk moment, guys. Like this is legitimately my cakewalk. Estella Panza, how the frick do you say this, Mia?
Everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one.
I deserve all of the hate for that, honestly, because that was just.
Estella the Cakewalk.
This name...
Estella Panza, how the frick do you pronounce it?
As a bit of a fun side, this isn't too much of a spoiler anyway, but we've kind of made it an unwritten rule that we are not writing this surname ever again for any scripts if we can so help it, because of just the absolute nightmare that's come from this one episode. So, yes, congratulations, Jarvy. You have had your cakewalk. I'm very proud of you. Yep. It's actually so much of a cakewalk that we've decided to rename our sort of like out of context quotes channel in the team server to the Pantomimia quotes channel, just because of how fucked this was.
Yeah.
You've left elastic tagged on the production. How do you feel?
The original cakewalk was an accident of language. This was a deliberation of language, a deliberate attempt to sound clever at the cost of sanity. So how do I feel, Shannon? I mean, I feel great, because I'm not a voice actor.
Pantomimia.
Oh no, we're not turning this into a tongue twister. No. Beetlejuice.
Or continue.
Yeah, and there's some of the team in the chat as well. We've got to give some condolences to people like Nox, who's here as well, who have had to deal with the retake hell that came from that, because every time it was said incorrectly, there'd need to be a retake, and every retake means another line that needed to be changed, which meant always engaging in more time spent. So thank you, everybody. Everybody, you may turn and you may praise Jarvy for his wonderful efforts, his true contributions.
Also, shout out to Perry for doing Trixie's transitions.
It's always good to get a quick shout out.
To just the best 19 poses. Oh god,
man, 19 poses.
19
clouds.
19 poses. Cloud development.
Oh dear. Well, I think that's a good time, if we're talking about clouds, to move on to the rest of this episode. So let's put this horrible thing away. Never have to.
For anyone,
I'm actually kind of proud of that drawing.
It's better than a certain other drawing, I'll say that.
What are you talking about? This is like, I got a whole museum collection of my meme art. There's 3 pieces, and this is like, number 3.
Right. I'll keep playing the episode unless anyone else has anything else they want to add to the saga of the Pantomimia hell.
For anyone wondering as well, her first name, I think that is... It's been a while since we came up with the name. I think that actually is a reference to a speller from the Leighton crossover. I'd have to go back.
But Estella is a real name.
Yeah, and I think it is somewhat of an oblique reference to that. Yeah. I'd have to go back to actually check, because we kind of moved on from the first name and went into the surname hell. So
Yeah,
In 7 months.
and I was the
since-
conductor.
You were the conductor on this pain train, and there are no stops and no breaks. Good luck, everyone.
I'm the director of Pantomimia. Oh,
Yeah, I've heard of her and her work. She made her debut with Bright
Yes, our favourite Clash Royale, based on Clash Royale.
shut up.
The papers were quick to
What's
You want to
the
quickly
name?
correct that?
You explain it, I'm done.
I don't know the. Well, I know I've heard of the production, but for everyone who was wondering, no, that was not a reference to Clash Royale, the video game. It was a reference to Flash Gordon. So yeah. And whoever thought I don't play Clash Royale, I haven't for ages, but no, don't get that mistake.
So funny. Clash Royale has nothing to do with theater.
It is unfortunate then that Stella's
It's like, what?
cut to
I actually had to look up Clash Royale to figure out what it was when people were mentioning it.
murder.
They say that
Oh, by the way,
stories
this is another new track.
inevitably
Yes. Oh, yes. What's the name of this track, Jarvy?
lost one such example.
Basics of the case, eccentricity.
And there is
I'm
only
really
one
clever.
hope
I'm so
for
clever, guys.
that loss.
It's Electric Swing, which is a lot of fun. Oh, look, she just did her little cute little hoof slam. That was adorable.
Little boop on the
I got
desk.
distracted by
The
Trixie. Whoops, she's
prosecution
winning.
attempts to prove his guilt today.
But yeah, this was a fun Basis of the Case track. I didn't want to copy necessarily JTH, but wanted to do something new. I've always wanted to try Electric Swing, so I gave it an honest go. I was inspired by not just, Trixie's Tricks of the Sleeve. I was also inspired by, what's the name of the song? Friend Like Me?
Wait,
yeah, Friend Like Me from Aladdin.
Ah,
You
right.
don't hear it, but I was very much inspired by it.
I thought you were thinking of
thought-
You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story for a second.
That's a reminiscence track.
Why is that?
Your Honor, it seems.
But yeah, Electric Swing, guys. It was a lot of fun to write. And
Yeah, it's a fun song.
it's catchy.
Disappeared?
The first chain reaction of the case.
If anywhere. But what is certain is that SB is no longer in main.
Look,
I'm
see, she's
getting
not
these
saying
names fixed.
Pantomimia, guys. It's okay.
I'd still get these two mixed up even now. And I won't say the names of who they are because I will get it wrong, even though I know
The
I've got it
sisters.
right.
I hope that we
The
are able to
sisters.
locate her then.
Those
Oh, by the way-
goddamn pantomemes.
And how did Mr.
By the way, a small
Concept
tidbit.
know of Mrs. Stella
Between
and
case
her
2 and case 3, the rigging team updated the rigs so that we can fiddle around way more easily with opening and closing their eyes. So now we can do scenes where they are talking, but they have their eyes closed, or have them open or close them right in the middle of a sentence without having to do too much crazy nonsense to get that working. So that's pretty handy. You'll be seeing that effect being used in this episode and future episodes.
And it's not just the blink. It's not just the eyes that also had a massive uplift. It's the lip syncing, and I'm sure a lot of people noticed the change in how reactive the lips are to people speaking. But yeah, this lip syncing is a whole nother beast. So much so that in polishing, it is now a requirement that we have to watch every single mouth movement because it is very possible that a mouth shape gets missed. So yeah, we take a lot of pride in trying to make this thing, and I've got to give props to Connor Salman and Joe Pretzelman for their assistance in the automation team there, because there was a lot of work put into making that happen.
Yeah,
So,
there's no way we would do this manually.
No.
So we rely on automation, and then we fix whatever the automation missed. But no, if this was manual, we wouldn't be doing this. Absolutely not.
So even
It
though
was
they
too
were
time
friends,
consuming, and a lot of things have changed. Like now it is possible to generate a base scene through thanks to a lot of the automation, and that's not like edited, that's just giving all the characters in the right places. It's remarkable how much has done, and I'm hoping to bring on Salman and Connor for a later DC to explain it more in depth, because I don't want to pretend that I understand it, because I don't. I just see the stuff in their chat and I just go, yes, very good, keep going.
Mr. Concept was friends with
Yes, yes,
Stella and
indeed.
SB.
Yes, the code here is made out of
But not the
code.
other.
The lips
Now.
are made out of lips.
I love that little animation.
Spread baseless
So
Yes.
sassy.
Hair flick.
Trixie admits that this is a thin argument at best.
And the relationship here and dynamic between Trixie and Sonata, which we will get into shortly because it gets even better, is probably one of my favourite parts of this scene. Don't get me wrong, the introduction of all characters is wonderful, but honestly, this back and forth that's upcoming, mwah, chef's kiss.
Well, at least I've gotten us away from
Now,
the uncomfortable implications.
you'll also notice that there's a slight glow on the characters, and it's more apparent in the next scene on Phoenix, but we're also applying some sort of very rudimentary lighting and shading, and it's mostly apparent on the mains, but that's coming from a light source somewhere, somehow, via After Effects. So if you haven't noticed before, there is now lighting. Again, another little production update, which I will rely on Soundman at a later date to explain in more detail.
Something like that. Surprised to see.
And again, another
This exchange is
reinforcement.
weird.
Really?
You know, I'm getting some interesting vibes. You know, I think, you know, something tells me they might like each other. Just saying, you know, I'm getting some vibes, just some slight vibes that they, you know,
And maybe you'd be better off.
did I say that out loud? Am I? Oh no, they can hear me. Oh no.
No, no.
Whoopsie daisy. Oh
This
no.
section was
Have we
fun to
accidentally
edit.
confirmed something? Oh no.
Well,
Oh no,
I think...
Oh me, oh my.
Jarvy is engaging in the shipping.
Look, they're talking about each other's clothes. That's so what enemies do.
I love the editing this scene.
And
The
now we
sheer
come-
intensity.
And the best line of the whole episode about to come.
Prosecution. You can't.
Yeah.
Court.
Hey!
Court.
And
Your Honor.
yes, if you know that reference, you know it. But for everybody's benefit, that is a reference to Doctor Strangelove.
Now then.
You can't fight here, this is the war room.
Yeah, we turned it from a reference into Celestia shipping them. So I mean, this is what we call the
Kind of
transitive
reference.
property of the intertextuality of art as a form. Did you keep up with that? Did you like that little fast bit of a literary analysis right there, G? It was very, very. They like each other, dude. They're. We didn't even mean it that way, but I can read it that way. It's right there.
Whoa, it's tr-
But there has to be some area she's not giving.
They-
Sorry.
they-
I'm just reading some of the chat responses. I'm loving to the flirtation.
Prove to them, to him, and to myself that I can.
Ah,
do
who's
this.
him?
Who's him, indeed? But we will never find out because her eyes close. And that, right, is the end
That's the
of
end of the
scene
episode,
one.
everyone. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
No,
Bye-bye. But there we go. So that is that's the first scene completed. Let's get some music on. So yes, as you saw, you know, a whole lot of things occur just in that one scene. A lot of introductions, a lot of reveals, a lot of updates. Overall, for me, that scene personally was the perfect way to start up this this new case. A lot of intrigue, a lot of opportunity. We really wanted to highlight the level of, well, I suppose the best way to put it is intrigue and improvements that we've made, a combination of the two. And I've got to give props to everyone who put work into that because, yeah, I still love it. And I love the fact that, you know, we've changed how we've engaged with this with these episodes as well going forward. There's more humor, which we wanted to get across very quickly. There's not really much more I can say other than I'm very happy with that scene. And now that we've made it to the end of scene one, now we can get to the Q&A section for scene one. So if anyone has any particular questions they want to ask, I'm looking at the chat. And whilst I'm waiting for a question to come through, if anyone else has anything they want to say, please go ahead.
No, is this your first? Wait, when did you join?
Yeah,
Now
I did
trying to
have
remember.
a few things prepared about the courtroom background.
You did.
Yeah.
Sorry, very good point. Do you want to go over those, Noel? You should have said. I almost
I was
forgot.
waiting for a lull. I
I'm
didn't
so
want to
sorry.
interrupt.
I'm so
No,
bad
it's
at my
all
job.
fine.
I should be fine.
I just got a little something. I got like a few points jotted down. Making these was like a blast and a half. I will say that I didn't design the courtroom myself. I was like, I was given concept art, and it helped that the concept art was exceptionally beautiful. I absolutely loved it. I don't know if I like trying to compare or like rate the things I do here, but all these shots I did for the Manhattan courtroom are some of my favorite things I've done for EOJ, like, or even in my personal art history period. For reference, I acted as like a colorist, which in like very simple terms is a person who gets a rough sketch in color of a scene and just renders that out to make it look pretty. for everything you see minus the judge's seat, which was made by lovely Viola. It was a bit of a headache to get through for like a solid week. The way the panorama is drawn is like uber specific, and trying to wrap your head around it, at least my head, was like a whole mountain in and of itself. There's a lot of pieces that are just blank space, and I needed like time to acclimate to that alone. And not to turn into like a yap fest, but the floor gave me the sweats. I think I redid it at least 5 or 6 times on this one and all the others, because it kept clipping into itself after we mirrored it, and like the shit with the, what was it, that cool 3D transition. I think Soundman and I went back and forth like 8 or 9 times trying to make sure it lined up. Shout out to him for being the most patient man on earth for like 2 days straight while I ironed all this out. I could probably go on for hours about the absolutely beautiful color choice we have for this, but I only have so much time, so I'll condense it. The light creams and the browns with the gold and the copper accents are absolute just chef's kiss. And I remember a line in the original series about the architecture of courtrooms being inspired by human architecture, and I can see that super clearly here. Like, I could live in these backgrounds. They just scream big and important. I'll close this out by showing off something else I did. I think it's on screen now. I did the gallery view portion, but because I'm so awful at direction, I accidentally made an off-color version of the courtroom. I can't explain how I did that, but I thought it kind of slapped, so I kept it around just for inspiration. I feel like every second of this was like, I don't know, it was hard, but when it was all done, I was so extremely proud, and I immediately wanted to do it again, and I probably would in a heartbeat. That's all from me, though.
Yeah,
Wonderful, Null.
holy cow, this is amazing.
Oh,
It is great.
Pretty.
Yeah, it came out great.
No, genuinely be very proud of that, because honestly, I'm looking at this and I hadn't had the opportunity to look at all these images before I put them on to this live stream, and only now am I having a minute to actually appreciate this. This is very vibrant, very, very shiny. Catches your eye really well.
Right? Oh my god, the shiny. I love doing the gold accents so freaking much.
No, you've done a fantastic job, and well deserving of the team leader of the artist, I say.
Oh, stupid.
No, I won't. I'm going to keep praising you. If Shannon, it's a trend in this team. We praise the artists and the video editors and the voice actors and the writers and the editors,
Especially
except
the
you,
writers.
Bruno. Fuck you, Bruno. All right.
Wait, this British man. Can you believe this British man?
Yes, you can, because I'm here. I'm the director. I'm the director! Woo! I said it live! Okay, moving on to questions.
We have a lot.
We have a lot. I'm just going to try and get back to the beginning where it is. So, let's see. I'm going to pick up.
Back
Yeah.
to the beginning.
I see some people trying to get spoilers out of us. Don't.
Mm-hmm.
Bold of you to assume.
Okay, here's a good question from, I believe that's you, Jam. So, why did you decide to go with this intro and not a shorter intro like in AA games, the previous EOJ cases? It's a good question. Well, here's the thing. A lot of the AA games, and you correct me if I'm wrong, resident AA encyclopedia, James, but not all the cases start with a very short introduction. Not all of them, anyway. And for us, particularly, we wanted to kind of focus on getting the main information across. We wanted to kind of capture everybody's attention with something new, show that the story has been not necessarily, and I hate using this word because it's so incorrect, retcon, but we've updated, we've got a plan, we've got something to work towards. We had something that we knew would be really, really cool and it raised a lot of questions. And, judging by everyone's reactions in the chat right now, just to the fact that I say ask a question and so many of you want spoilers, like, my God, it works. So, from my perspective, though I didn't have any influence on the initial roadmap, and I've got to give props there to Jarvy, who has roadmapped all of episodes 1 to 6. Personally, I would say that this was a choice to enable everybody here to have something to chew on, something different, yet, whilst it may not necessarily be what you're used to in what we've shown before, I feel it brings more story than any introduction has done previously. Like, if we take a look at Case 1 and Case 2, really cool, artistic-y looking things, but overall, they don't give you overall concept. They don't give you they don't give you much of things to take away from for overarching mystery. Whereas this,
The narrative power is straightforward.
Yes.
I think is a way to describe Case 1 and Case 2. I'll talk about this more at the end of this episode because surprisingly, there was thought put into the framing and the structure of not just this, but the case. I can't get too much into here, but this opening gives us a unique ability. It's very grounded in cinema, not game, and not traditional, what you call standard storytelling. And for that reason, it is very effective. And it gets you engaged. And I think the fact that you are confused, I think that's a sign that it works.
I actually can give an example of a case to make it a bit more, I guess, understandable. Third case of Trials and Tribulations, Recipe for Turnabout. The opening cutscene for that is literally just a courtroom scene playing out. It's less of a cutscene and more of just dialogue playing. There's not very much artistically. It's just what we've got is essentially an extended version of it. It's got the same amount of confusion because Recipe for Turnabout's opening ends with Phoenix ? Getting a guilty verdict, and then you're left to just assume the rest. And now we've got overall concept on trial. So there is some sort of precedent for it. It's just this is obviously a lot longer.
quite. And as I say, as both Jarvy and James mentioned, there's more there for everyone here to engage with. So, yeah, that's why we've gone for it. And as I say, I think, honestly, it's wonderful. But that's a personal opinion. But that's just a G theory. Wait, no, I wronged that up. Never mind. To a different question to hide my incompetency. Can't answer that one. That is a spoiler. For a more serious question, outside of song inspirations, was there a direct idea or desire for making Trixie's theme? Like an emotion or dynamic you wanted to capture, or to represent her character? Go on, Jarvy.
That's a good question. I think the main emotion I wanted was spectacle. And also, not just spectacle, heroism. If you listen to Trixie's theme outside the context of the episode and the fact that she's a prosecutor and that's traditionally the antagonist, it sounds heroic. I mean, the horns all coming in at the end, but then the choir almost supporting her, like her own posse, or like a crowd of, concert goers at her own concert. The whole point was to convey the sense of she genuinely interested in doing her job. Sonata herself notes that Trixie seems a little different because there's a slight change in her personality and her character. She's grown, she's evolved. So she's no longer the petty, Turnabout Storm. I love the petty Trixie, but I do miss her, and I don't think anybody cares to have her back. She's grown up. She's a little more grounded. The spectacle is no longer just a performance. It is instead now the catalyst for however she's changed. I think that would be the general vibe that I was going for.
I think you nailed it.
It goes hard. It's probably one of my favorite tracks.
Right. Okay, that's a good couple of questions. So we'll move on to the next scene, I think, now, since we've been on this for quite a while. So let's let this wonderful, and I just want to say that I love Godot's theme, Dark Fragrance of Coffee, so I will play this religiously on most DCs now, so you will have to get sick and tired of this song eventually. I am terribly sorry, everyone. But I'm not going to apologise for good music either, so cope. Anyway, on to scene 2, A Familiar Face. And this transition, by the way, oh, I love it as well.
They're at least treating you somewhat better than the last time you were here.
Huh. Oh my gosh, it's the Phoenix!
It's the Phoenix!
Phoenix!
It's him.
It's the guy.
Thank you.
Who's
He's the guy. Now he's Duty.
Do you want to talk here, Shannon? Because I feel like you have a note that you wish to divulge to everyone.
Yes. So, some of you sharp-eyed viewers might notice, hey, Fina looks a little different. Even more different from how he was in Case 2. Well, the long story short of it is, we had to remake the Ace Attorney regs in Animate. Yeah, and for those wondering, my gosh, why would you be this insane to do something like this? Well, long story short, we upscaled for Case 3. A lot of the assets that we made in Case 2 were with the dimensions of 1920 by 1080. Well, for Case 2, we've upgraded to 2K. However, in the process, we would also need to upgrade the human rigs, which shouldn't be that bad. But we also had upgraded our lip syncing methods, so that way they're a lot more accurate to what the voice actors and actresses are saying. However, with how the Phoenix Wright characters are structured in their animation, we really couldn't afford to do that with the 3D models, so we had to trace over them in Animate, and, well, that was a trip and a half, right, Null?
Absolutely. Oh my god.
Yeah. I mainly assisted in this in terms of the lip syncing department, making sure that the mouth shapes were looking good. But other than that, it's been quite the experience of creating these beloved characters into full 2D. We've done it, folks. We've done it. They are officially integrated into the My Little Pony universe. Rejoice!
Hey!
And I recall in Case 2, in the True 3 director's commentary, people saying that they went with the 3D model since remaking the rigs in Animate would be hell. And here we are, remaking the rigs in Animate.
If people wonder how much dedication we have, this isn't even half of it. Like, this Herculean effort by itself, impressive, but trust me, we will go above and beyond if we need to. But it all shows, and I have to admit, these updates, personally, 100% approve. Some people have made comments about how it kind of doesn't look as nice as the previous ones, and I can understand. Initial reaction, it's different, but when you take a second to properly sit on the new models, you come to appreciate that there is so much more detail there that was never present in Case 2. So, for me,
comment was said in 2.3. So
yes, that's very true as well. Like, suddenly changing into this sort of semi 720p model from the sort of pixelated bits, it's iteration, it's change. And the nice thing here is that this is how all the Case 3 is going to look. Anyway, it's not going to be like 3 episodes, then we're going to suddenly upgrade. Now, this is the standard. The bar has been set, so it's just going to stay at that kind of quality going forward.
Yeah, and so help us if we have to do transitions for these guys.
Holy fuck.
Hey, Shannon, I got an idea for a transition.
No!
Desk lamp.
So I'm gonna need Phoenix to roundhouse kick me. Can you do me a pose like that? Just transition, just so in character, obviously. He would totally have the legs needed. Julius would have the legs needed to... Well, he's always threatening to kill me, so I mean... Where are they
How about we keep going?
VOJ is not liable for any dead bodies. Yes. Now, yes, we'll continue on with that wonderful bombshell. Also, a bit of a fun fact.
That Julius constantly wants to kick me in the guts?
Yes. There's a bit of a fun fact that I didn't get to moment. Another slight oopsie is that at the beginning of this scene, the guard suddenly turns into a bit of a, for a lack of a better term, the presence of Phoenix creates him to experience a halo effect. The shading didn't apply quite correctly, so if you go over to the very beginning of the scene, you'll notice he's unlightened, and then he becomes lightened up. Just another funny...
Because look at that, there's no brain cells in that figure right now.
Hey, be careful who you're talking about, good sir, because there's a Rainbow Dash now on screen, and you know how I feel about Rainbow Dash, so don't go making bad words about my favourite pony.
I don't know what you're talking about. I love Rainbow Dash. I don't think that I actually don't think she's the worst of the main 6. six. There's somebody who takes that space, but
I'm sure we can figure
it's all
out what to do
relative.
next.
We don't have to get
yes.
into that.
Background poet.
This is going absolutely
Who?
nowhere.
Oh, but
I'm not. Hey, you can't bait me like that. I am a very smart young man. I will restrain myself.
You have the mental fortitude of wet asparagus.
Where it's,
What's been going on?
And hey,
I can't escape that because that's very iconic of me, as I've said.
It was a very iconic. It's in our soundboard.
I've been here, you know?
Now,
in the previous scene, we talked about how this first scene created confusion, intrigue. Speaking of which, this intro has also caused confusion and intrigue.
We will
James,
get-
you wanted to...
That's good.
we'll get to that
yeah.
at the end, I think, because there will be more time to focus on it. We will do that at the end of this scene, because you're very right, Bruno. There's a lot that we need to divulge there, but I want to give James the right opportunity. I want to give them breathing room before we get into the next scene, just to give it enough time. But I'm sure you've got a lot to say. You want to say, James, nonetheless.
Just to note, it was intentional. It wasn't just we missed something.
Well, I mean, that's the PR spin anyway.
Wait, what? They're just letting her walk around like nothing happened?
And Robodash's characterization also got called into question, which I shall make some comments on at the end of scene 4.
Uncalled for? After what she did?
And good shout out to Muse here for Rainbow. And one of those awesome moments as well, because of all the wonderful support that people have given us. I believe it was just after Case 2 finished, or just before Case 2 finished, but we were able to get Muse an upgraded microphone with everyone's donations. So the quality of recordings has gone up as a result. So, you know, small stuff like that really has a massive impact, not only on, you know, end product, but just people's lives. So thank you to everyone who's so generous.
It's just in time.
Surely you must realize that it isn't fair treating Sweetie Belle this way, right?
Fair?
Devotion.
That's right.
Oh my god.
I had to make it. I had to.
Old memes. Snow.
Old memes die hard.
Rainbow Horse is angry.
You've never lied or cheated your way to the top before. Oh wait, that's right. You
The one-liners towards characters in this episode, we commit our own form of murder, I feel.
We do.
I like the architecture the artists have been creating for Cloudsdale.
I can't tell her what
The-
is fair. Not a
With the backgrounds.
Oh yeah. Idisi did this background. He did a really great job with it.
No matter what she thinks.
The little clouds sneaking in, the skylights everywhere. It really...
Would at least be helpful
It really
to meet
fits.
some pony who would.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any pony that comes to mind?
Why? So you can bother
Nice little track
This-
playing in the background.
This is the first usage of an investigations track. Well,
I
in this
wonder
case
why.
anyway.
Exactly.
Because Joel and I, who worked with me on Case 2's OST, we actually slid something into, I think it was 2.8, when Sonata comes back and she starts explaining shit, as she's wont to do. She actually uses, I think it's Tricks and Gimmicks is the first logic track from the first investigations, just as a little hint that we would be using Eastern Investigations music for that character in particular.
I think was a
We're very on the
wonderful.
nose.
Yeah, we are
We just have a
subtle.
very small nose. You don't see it until we see it.
Then it appears we're at a stalemate.
And then the stalemate gag as well.
So, however,
There was watching the chat was probably my favourite part of it, and I was waiting for someone to
know.
say the word, and then it came, and I was so proud.
Because that line is taken directly from Eastern Investigations too, so I saw everybody just lose their minds once they saw that.
Though
Chess, huh?
I will say, I'm very disappointed in everyone equally, because we were teasing the hell out of this for months, and poor Trenton spent days doing different activities. We had a competition, a chess tournament. We were dropping teasers on the Twitter. Nobody gave a comment though. No one guessed.
The trailer had chess pieces and a chess background, and people didn't pick up on it.
Oh,
G,
don't.
you asked, has anyone played Investigations?
I did. I
I've seen
asked
the
that.
pictures.
Silence. Just.
Crickets.
Capcom, please localize that game.
The
Hey, the chess tournament was a teaser? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we gave... I'm very disappointed in some people, and there's a particular moderator, Dawn, who also needs to be called out here, because I dropped several teasers to you, mate, in your DMs, just hoping that you would bite, and you never did. So you're getting a public call out from me here.
Wow.
But in all fairness, he knows now. He knows. We've had a good conversation about this, so he knows. But yeah, that is scene 2, the setup. James, let's give you the floor here, because I feel like you deserve to talk a little bit about some people's concerns related to the fact that we get straight into it. So, without further ado, please take it away.
So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it was intentional. It's in medias res, where we basically just get straight into the meat of what's going on. Usually, Ace Attorney cases have some sort of like preamble to things, but we figured that because we've already got the trial with overall, that can basically just serve as the introductory scene to the episode. We don't actually have to have any sort of setup for what's going on right now, especially because of the fact that the date is actually passed over quite a few days. It's not the very next day, which was also intentional, just to not have the very first scene where we come back just be everybody just arguing and tearing each other's heads off, because that would probably have been what would have happened if we'd have started things off immediately after 2-9. So just getting straight into the case itself, beginning with Sonata talking to Rainbow, was just, I think everyone just sort of agreed that it would be the best thing to do, because we do actually get into the why of everything once a certain mechanic shows itself off.
He's trying not to spoil it.
The episode's been out for a week. He still doesn't want to spoil it.
Biting my tongue.
A certain mechanic.
It is interesting, and I mean, as you say, where the story needs to go and how we wanted to get this going. As James rightly said, now was the best time. And as James also made a brief comment before I sort of, whilst I was telling him to wait, but rightly said, we haven't forgotten anything. We haven't missed anything. And for anyone who was concerned that they had missed an episode, no, it is 2-9 and 3-1. There's not like a 3-0 that just kind of got deleted from the channel that anyone missed. This is, in essence, the chronological order. Well, I say the chronological order because scene 1 happens, but I feel like I don't need to test anyone's intelligence on why that one goes where it goes. Where people need to put that one in the timeline. But yeah, so we have a reason for this. I know it's interesting how people have responded to it, but there will be more answers. And the best part is that it won't have to wait too long for them. We'll take a quick question if anyone's got any from the chat. A very quick one before we get into what is arguably probably the most original thing, well, most unique aspect that we've managed to create to this day.
So epic.
So I'm going to give people a quick chance to drop a question. And then if nothing comes up.
Is there anything we can do as viewers to support the project?
Yes, there is. So we've got multiple ways you can support us. You can subscribe, like and share, obviously. Everybody can do that. That would be wonderful. We have social medias that you can always repost and retweet and, share stuff we do there. There's a Discord server, links of which you can find in the description. There's a link tree as well if you want to combine it all. We also do have a YouTube membership and we have a Patreon with pretty much similar tiers on both. With the Patreon having some higher end tiers due to the fact that it's a lot easier to organize on that side for those. And yeah, if you're interested in supporting, whether that just be from getting the word out or financially, everything goes towards the team. It's a shared fund. I need to stress that. So yeah, you can support us in a multitude of ways. Honestly, just being around to watch the episode is generally the best. And being around to live streams like this is even better. Because without people talking about what we're doing, there is no point us talking about it either.
And remember, I will do anything for money.
God. I thought I had escaped, but I could never get away from the sellouts. We've got a few more coming in, actually. I've seen one. When no one suggested... Yeah, so how did I feel when no one suggested logic chess with all the hints that were given? I'll answer this whether we'll get into scene 3, because this basically spoils what's coming. But, very disappointed. But equally, it gave us a lot of lessons that we've learned about how to do teasers. And trust me, we will be even harder next time. And we've already started teasing stuff, actually. In fact, I've started teasing multitude of massive things, like back in the YDGeon talks, for example, with PPW. So, you know... Just saying, if you want to play games and you're not going to play it when they're simple, I'm just going to make them harder and make it even worse for you. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of expected it, to be honest, because it's not a very well-known mechanic, as I'm sadly and slowly starting to realise after working on this project.
We are never nice. We are never simple. And like with other things that are not simple, we should get into the next step, the next scene, I think. Which I don't think anyone needs to really, say any... I don't think there's any words that can really be said other than welcome to the chess dimension.
The chess dimension!
Puts up against me.
This pony she's
this...
protecting. It's
Wow.
I identify
And
Yeah, shout out to Perry again, because he was the one responsible for the transitions for this one.
Strategy to employ in order
what
to
a
do so.
time.
There's a little chin scratch.
Time.
That's cute.
Daring.
Say again?
Bug me all you want.
Sanaa doing a little chin scratch. That's cute.
Well, there's a lot of little details in this, and I'm slightly impressed that they weren't ever called on. But if you listen carefully, when ponies put their hoof down on the tile board, you'll hear a little sort of hoof clop sound effect. And then you'll also, when Rainbow Dash is flying, you'll also hear the wings sort of fluttering as when she's hovering in the air. So a lot of little sound effects have been added, and I'm surprised no one actually has mentioned those, because quite a lot of keen, eagle-eyed people were noticing other little details, but those got missed. So yeah, just oh, and a final thing, the background is also fading in and out. It may be a little hard to see on this stream, but if you go to the video, you'll notice that the blue, the dark blue and the light blue, they kind of expand and contract over the course of the scene. So a lot of little details that were added to this. This got a very large labour of love, to say the least.
So this pony you mentioned, what was their
And
role in
those
the
need to be
incident?
given to both Salman and Connor again for some amazing editing and
goes
After
nothing.
effects.
All the effects.
Just like this.
And multiple options.
Multiple options.
It's a curious thing to bring forward a very gamey element into this very linear series. But I think it works for situations like this, like the revisualization we had at the end of Case 2,
Yeah.
the big brain moment.
Surely their opinion
It's
matters.
it's great
I
to
think-
see these come to
yeah.
life as well.
Yeah, obviously.
I think it really works because logic chess is very, it's very, what's the word? Closed off from anything else. Like, this was actually its own scene,
Is that right?
so it doesn't need to carry over into anything else. So you could just work on
For one,
what it actually is.
why would they need
Yeah, it doesn't
to
interrupt. It
this
has its
there?
own space. It has its own time.
Unlike
Yeah.
with regular logic, which goes on throughout the entire case.
That seems rather selective.
Logic, you say?
Why this friend specifically?
Hmm.
None of your
By the
other
way,
friends
who
have
created the
knowledge.
chess pieces?
Yeah.
Oh,
That would be Miriam.
That would be... Who was it again,
Really
though?
know why. I
If
may
I'm
have
not
thought
wrong, it
rather
was
than this one.
Miriam, one of our newer artists. She killed it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, these are great.
I'm sorry.
I know they look
Ash.
so shiny.
I can see you trying.
So
to-
shiny.
I really can.
All I get is the Moana song in my head every time I hear the word shiny now. I've been corrupted.
You said it yourself. The police
Moana
have spoken
brain
to your
rot.
friend. Naturally, they would have a good reason for this. Tell me, she's a witness.
I love how
isn't
much
she?
of an idiot Rainbow Dash comes off in
I love
in
that
this
pose
logic
right there.
chess.
Fine. Yeah.
There's a
She's
lot of
very
things to
bad at
love.
lying.
This,
Yeah.
I love the goofy. It's just when she's like biting on both. It's so
And who was
goofy,
she?
but it's like it's like I don't know. I just like it so much.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Also, quick shout out to Cinder for doing Rainbow Dash's logic, chess poses, and transitions. She also killed it with these.
Back. We're friends.
You guys are
So-
killing it.
Not like you.
so many people.
Keep it
And
up.
again, a reminder, this team is like 70 plus people. So like you will hear names constantly.
Happy
And you all better start learning every single one of them because they all contribute something to this production. So start getting your textbooks out. There's a test next episode, next director's commentary. I jest, but there are a lot of people who put time and energy into this, so don't look at just the people on the screen today, though a lot of the people here have contributed significantly. A lot of other people deserve a lot of praise. I really need to stress that. But
all hail EOJ, but most of all hail B.
All hail Shannon.
The villain of EOJ. The writer who lived.
And the reason behind the detainment.
I destroyed the bit. Have I destroyed the bit?
You've destroyed the bits? You destroyed all the bits? That's why Phoenix has no money. He destroyed the bits.
Yes, I destroyed currency.
This whole section was quite interesting as well because trying to give exposition for a game mechanic that a lot of people haven't necessarily engaged in was also important, and trying to balance it. I can't remember there was a discussion in the writing or when it came to editing, but I remember there being a point about we don't want to over push what needs to be said. It needs to be quick and easy to understand, pick up the base mechanics and just get straight into it. Though, of course, as we will probably discuss very shortly, the joys of bringing in something that's a bit niche and out there is, people sometimes give you incorrect credit for it as well, which I do love some of the people who are like, a new mechanic by EOJ? Unfortunately not.
I can't wait to see this in an Eternia game.
Oh, what episode was this for?
And then someone just writes to Capcom angrily, "You stole from Elements of Justice, how dare you?"
Oh my god, you...
Oh god.
Hell else.
Say, how did you guys come up with the wrong choices for the text boxes?
We left it.
Just wrote them. It's
Yeah, but
simple as
There were
that.
some funny ones. Like,
just do funny lines.
Meme.
There were some choices made, though, after they were created by Connor, who edited this scene, that didn't make it to the final cut. I don't have a reference for one of them, but there was one of them that was very, very particular in its way of framing stuff, which was quite a laugh. Yeah. So we've had to be a bit careful, because there's a point where it becomes silly and funny, and then also just is outright, you wouldn't see that as an option, even if it is a bit of a meme.
There is one very mean option in Investigations 2 that you can say, and it's an instant game over.
I've heard of this. It's like, you are a failure.
Yeah, it's so mean for no reason.
Well, there's an interesting comment I've just noticed in the chat, a bit of an inconsistency, said her before this. So it's kind of the point of this second one is to double down on the her. It's a sort of case that when Rainbow first says it, she's kind of offhand about it, but Sonata wants to get the full confirmation, the double down effect.
Yeah, she lets her continue.
Mm-hmm. It's always good sometimes not to capitalize on the first opportunity you see it. She capitalized it in the first instance because it's a pawn, but when you get to this part where it's I believe this is the queen. I'm not correct in saying. Yeah. It's you gotta get more ammunition. So you've got to basically sometimes build up your argument, and that's something you should probably keep an eye on Sonata's character as a whole.
She does notice it because she is very smug about having heard it. She just lets Rainbow continue.
It was better than to, immediately jump in. Phoenix would, because that's his whole game, but Sonata, as we demonstrate here, is a little more restrained. I mean, even in scene 1, Trixie literally tells her, maybe you shouldn't jump the gun so early all the time. Wow, it's like scene 1 sets up something to say about Sonata in the present. Whoa.
Wow.
Interesting. It's like there's actual intent. It's like, oh, this isn't actually, contradiction. This is evolution. You just see it real time. This is your fault. That's the fun. It's your fault.
If some pony doesn't get that, they're not wonderful material.
And this I'm not going to be able to say very much, and no one here is going to be able to say very much, but a lot of people's perceptions of who they're talking about is just wonderful.
I remember watching the premiere and everyone going like, "Oh my gosh, is lightning dust?" And I'm just saying, guys, lightning dust got kicked out of the Wonderbolts at the end of the episode.
It was quite the entertainment, I shall say. And it's a bit of a shit. Well, you know what? Let this scene play out.
It's very interesting if the fans want a certain character for the sole reason to hate on them and send them to jail. That's
By the way, that rainbow
thing.
Or in this case, just hoping that they're dead.
Just like, wow, guys, friendship is magic?
What? Friendship? Never heard of her. And we'll call that there for that scene, since that is pretty much the end of the scene there.
Like
so
that one scene from Bruce Almighty when we enter heaven.
Yeah.
That's a dated reference.
Go on, Bruno. Go on, Bruno. You've been dying to say it.
Yeah. We kind of went past it, but that final Rainbow Scream, that's freaking amazing.
Mm.
The RVA did amazing with that.
Muse is certainly Muse's Rainbow. Mwah, love it. But yes, that's scene 3, Logic Chess, completed. A very cool addition. Something that I think, honestly, whilst I think the episode as a whole really ties itself well together, it's not unfair to say that this steals the show, quite literally, and defines the episode. But yeah, whew, the effort put into it has been astronomical, and a lot of props have to be given to everybody there for all the hard work. But we're at the end of that scene, so open again to a quick Q&A. But whilst people are thinking of their questions, do you want to talk a bit more about the Logic Chess mechanic as a whole, James, or have you said what you want to say? Because I know there was a pause moment you wanted to say about how it was from the Ace Attorney series. I don't know if you want to say any more.
Just basically, we didn't come up with it. It was taken from Investigations 2.
Not original.
Please play the game. It hasn't come over officially, but it does have a fan translation. It is unironically the best game in the series, at least to me.
It's big words.
It's certainly one of the best of the whole series.
Yeah.
Including Great Ace Attorney and the main series.
It does so much for so many characters, and it's the last time you see quite a lot of characters as well.
Yeah.
So just kind of a send-off.
I'd say in terms of writing quality, it's definitely on par with the Great Ace Attorney 2. That's how good it is.
So here's the part where I admit on stream that I've never played the investigation games.
That's okay. You're not the first one.
Yeah,
but you should
one of the fascinating things. Excuse me.
Go on, Bruno.
Yeah, one of the fascinating things about Investigations 2 being so good is that it's not written by the original creator. People usually think the best games are from Shutakumi. But Investigations 2, but Investigations 2 comes from the second writer the series got. His name escapes me right now.
Takeshi Yamazaki.
The DD and SJ stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, he did Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice. He also did both Investigations.
I think he started out on Rise from the Ashes as well. I don't think he was the main writer. That was obviously Shu Takumi. I think he was like a planner for that case, and that's essentially how he got the role to do the spin-offs and then came onto the main series.
Well, that's fun facts. The knowledge of Ace Attorney lore is deep within this team, and I have none of it.
I mean, I have only played the trilogy, Great Ace Attorney duology, so it's interesting.
Well, you have no excuse now, because another game's come out.
It's called EOJ. Takes up so much of my time.
It's research, Jarvy. Just call it research.
My research is watching playthroughs, looking on Wikipedia and fan wikis, and then talking to James.
So,
that's how
good
I
question.
got
There's a good question related to Logic Chess that I want to bring in whilst we still have time to talk about questions. Was the Logic Chess segment always planned to be a thing when writing 3-1?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Connecting Sonata with the Ace Attorney investigations and mechanics, that's been a thing since way back. Not necessarily making her like an Edgeworth analog, but just bringing over, at least one of the mechanics. I think that was something that had been tossed around since like the very beginning of the series.
That's the question answered then. Very short and simple, very nice and easy. Question about the pieces, which we have ponyfied most of them, but I won't be revealing what they are yet. There's a bit of a general one. So what are your guys' thoughts on fan-made cases like in the AA series or the MLP series? Well, for MLP, there's really that many. I think it's just us and Turnabout Storm and the other side, and the My Little Investigations game, obviously, that was cancelled. But I'm not aware of any more from MLP.
There are some fanfics that have attempted it, but I don't think they're complete. So
right, that makes sense.
As far as Ace Attorney fan cases, I've only seen one to its completion, and that's the bonus case for Apollo Justice. I think it's called Turnabout Substitution. The others I've not really seen some. I think some of the team members have seen some others. They get kind of wacky.
Well, I know there's Turnabout
Operation
and Turnabout Jackpot. Those are around.
Yes, by Lord Ban as well.
Yeah, he's kind of holding it down for the fan case for Ace Attorney.
No, we're hopeful.
He shouted us out. That was pretty cool.
I believe he had some work with Turnabout Storm when that was being produced at the time. I know that everyone kind of has mixed in together. We've assisted in other cases like their name evades me at this exact moment. Oh no, this is very bad of me. I am blanking midstream. This is.
I know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about. We're all going to sort of sit here and go, yes, we know exactly. Bugger. Is it Shield? The Turnabout team, Shield of Justice or something.
Yeah.
I think we've assisted them with some stuff. But
Salman gave them the mood matrix.
That's right. With a wonderful little Easter egg in there as well, which I still laugh to this day. But yeah, so we are aware of other fan cases, but obviously we kind of get sucked into our own world a little bit because of just how much needs to be done. We don't often get a chance to review much, but hey, we're always, like every fan, we're always looking forward to more fan content as well. I think there's a whole wiki on it if people are interested.
Check us out at TV Tropes.
Oh god, yeah, the TV tropes. I hope people are updating the TV tropes with all this wonderful, juicy information.
I sure am not.
All the references.
I cannot.
Does the TV trope? Does the TV trope still call us Team Turnabout?
Wait, what? Does the TV tropes count us as Team Turnabout, or
no? Does the TV tropes still call us Team Turnabout?
I don't think so.
Do they call us that still? I think they changed that, actually. I think we're fine now.
The Turnabout team.
All right.
I hope.
Though, there's a bit of a funny thing with EQD is that they haven't updated the tag for us, so it's just we're lumped under Turnabout Storm. We don't have our own tag on EQD at the moment, which is very sad. Very sad. But hey,
at least we know our legacy, our IP.
We all know the legacy. Can't forget dear old Turnabout Storm.
Legacy.
But yeah.
That's an interesting word. I wonder if it holds importance.
This man wants to talk spoilers.
I'm not allowed.
Oh, well, maybe you will be. But first, let us get back into the next scene, I think, because we've held on this logic chest for quite a while now. I'm going to cut the music.
Lovely assets, Attorney.
Lovely assets. I can't cut music on the stream, man. I'm just so good at this. I'm so bad at it. So good at this. I'm so bad at it. Back in.
Assets, Attorney, assets.
To scene 5.
Assets, Attorney, assets.
I should have timed that a bit better, actually. I should have had it on the logic chest complete in retrospect.
I didn't think she'd talk. You certainly have a knack for this.
Well, when I was young,
I was too busy to make any friends.
He's been
Phoenix.
holding that back. He's been holding that back.
So not a backstory. What?
What? Huh?
What?
He has a backstory? I don't believe
Silly
that.
is to not seem worth the effort it expends.
She's not just me, a pony.
That's not important.
You open up my eyes. I'm not gonna do that.
Are you
Stop
ready
killing
to talk
people,
about
Jarvy.
it?
Wait, hey, that's my job. With the music and the writing.
Really have a choice, do I?
Am I not a master of my own fate?
Quick. I don't
Fate.
want to waste
Fatalism.
time explaining
Hmm.
stuff you should already know. So no more pointless questions.
Jared, you're pissing me off now. I'm wanting to say stuff now.
Skinny, if
I am not inviting Jarvy back onto a live stream for another decade as punishment.
Bro,
He is bad
you know you'll have me
influence.
back for the next one. Oh,
I've still got
you
Neo
know,
J talk.
you gotta.
I've still got to schedule your EOJ talks at some point as well, don't
Oh
I?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
I'm totally ready.
Spoiler Central.
Thanks, Nick.
This
Oh,
was
yeah,
a
this
nice
is
little
here.
addition.
Easy. And it took a lot of hard work.
You go ahead, Jarvy. We both had the same
People
brain
who were
cell.
like, why aren't you guys telling us information? Your answer is, we tell you information. It just happens in scene 4, not scene 1.
Became one
Mm.
a little bit later.
In media
Oh, you get
res.
the name, Streamline.
And then she suddenly found
I wonder
a
what
way
she's
onto
like.
the team. Not
Who's
much
Streamline? I don't know.
worth it, though.
Streamline? It's very streamlined.
Don't know of a streamline.
She just
I wonder if we'll see her down the line or something.
Yeah, streamline down the line. I'm so proud of you, Shannon. That was the best one you've made all day.
agreed.
It was unintentional.
What exactly
I know, that's why it's the best one.
we were
Oh, here it comes.
Oh god.
Everyone's favorite. Let's play Guess the Reference.
Never train with
You had to explain this to me as well, which is the most
I
embarrassing
know,
part
it's so
about it.
Then, what happened to make you change your mind that day?
It's a little bit further along, actually.
It is, yeah.
had to.
Debate. We got baited by our own writing.
they being
It's my fault.
Our
I
captain.
baited myself with
So we were
I just hook,
there.
line, and sinker.
You and me.
Hmm?
An expert fisherman.
You just got pantomime yet.
and what kind of
Ah,
training
we-
exercises do you all
That doesn't sound that bad. Oh no.
You choose the usual wonderful stuff.
Can we that's not a bad turn of phrase. Push up,
We're not
sit up,
doing
plenty
that.
of juice. That's your Team
Understood.
4-star abridged
Push-ups?
DBZA
Yeah.
abridged reference.
No
Um,
offense, Nix, but
That's
what
my
is
sense of
it?
humor, guys.
Not a wonderful
Well, we've seen my sense of humour. Because, well, actually, no, your sense of humour is definitely the caught in the courtroom joke, isn't it, Jarvy? That was totally by you.
That was you. I keep getting credit for all the funny lines, and I'm like, guys, I'm legitimately not a humorist.
Oh, this is
It
my
is a
sense of
struggle,
humor
though,
coming
too.
up. Where Phoenix gets absolutely memed on.
Yeah.
This was you. Oh, you
Yeah, it was.
filthy bastard, honestly.
And just
I-
silence. Just
It's absolutely shit on.
this
I'm-
stupidity.
The eternal butt monkey.
Hey, when you're right, you're right.
You're right.
It's
Oh, I just realized you're right. You're
Yep.
with the nose
Yep.
to right.
Some good
I
follow.
didn't realize that. It's been a year and I never knew.
GG.
I love Phoenix's annoyed expression.
Oh, it's such a. Just please get me out of here.
She's
Just
so
save me.
done.
Streamline collapse.
It's because he's a dad. He makes dad jokes.
Yeah.
He made dad jokes before he was even a dad. It was fate.
Why was
Fate, you say. Fate, you say. That's an interesting word.
Please think I had
I
Wonder that
know. Why
Wonder-
bother pursuing it?
Ba,
Oh
ba,
my
ba,
God.
ba, 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 ba.
Could you repeat that, Madnes?
Do you think I
Interestingly enough, that line before with the poisons, there was two different ways to do it. Oh, and shaky guard is shaky.
Not
But-
weird.
There were some interesting ideas on how to present the poisoned and the muttering. Ended up with the M dashes, but I think at one point there was like some horrible sort of wingding looking writing as a suggestion. I can't remember if that was tragic scene. And I was like, that's not going to work.
She's just cursing under her breath. Like, wow. I mean, she kind of almost. She drops horse expletive,
Expletive.
but we cut her off. So hey, let Rainbow curse 2024. Make it a trending
Let me
I mean, we've had
on
fair.
Twitter.
Now we've
Let
got Rainbow.
curse.
specifically.
Let Rainbow curse. Let Rainbow. Why am I saying that? I'm the writer.
The other Wonderbolts.
I'm a writer. I can make that happen. It's not gonna happen.
Probably just a case of me
Right,
being
James?
in the wrong place at the wrong time.
No comment.
No comment.
Uh,
Not until his lawyer is present, and hopefully it's not Phoenix, who's flying by the seat of his pants.
well, but Sonata's right here.
Well, speaking of that, this scene,
Oh, boy.
this part of the scene, man.
Sonata's actually the one
Whoops.
taking the case.
Whoops.
Not me.
Whoops.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
about that.
About that. We'll let the scene play out and we'll talk more about it after the fact, but boy, people's reactions to RD. You hate my girl, people. Why you hate my girl?
In the background, I can't take it seriously.
He just wants to leave.
He's like, they've locked me in here with the angry mare. I'm scared. I only have this armor. I think it could stop her. Tell my kids I love them. We're gonna have another royal order incident.
Oh, this line. When we were doing the table read, Cadet just dropped it in character because we were doing it just regular reading, and I lost my shit the very first time I heard her perform it. I don't know why, and to this day, it's not that funny of a line, but the performance, it just is so fucking Sonata.
I mean, we could get into the analysis of the differences in how we write humor. But, the many philosophies in emotional payoff versus the emotional intent, but we're not going to do that.
We do humor? Jarvy, this is news to me.
No.
Why didn't you tell me this before the
don't do
stream?
humor.
I know you.
I will admit it, and I will admit it as many times. I rely on the other writers to help out in the humor department because,
But references count.
well, I make
humor,
funny lines
in my
on the
opinion.
fly. I'm not very good at writing
No,
them.
you'd never poison some ponies.
That's why we have a team.
Even if you don't believe
We
Because
have
a
a
team
at
helps
least
us.
believe that much.
We've
Team makes us
friends.
strong. Shout out, of course, to Random and Evan, our two new writers, who were instrumental in getting this episode done. Because without them, we would not have all of this.
Way too many episodes to write.
Oh.
Yeah, it's thanks to them that we're that far ahead.
Yeah,
Do we want to say how far ahead we are?
several.
Several.
Quite.
That was a pun, guys.
There are many episodes written.
By the way, I recall that when people were theorizing which liar would take which case, no one thought about Phoenix potentially being the co-counsel for Sonata.
That's a very good point, Bruno.
Yeah, there was a resistance to thinking Phoenix could be co-counsel. If I recall correctly, he's only
you
been...
have a pony co-counsel
It's
because it's
happened
the
a
question.
couple
That's
times.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out to Solia, one of our new VAs. Solia jump scare.
Solia jumps there.
Who's southern, apparently.
I just said go ham with
This
this line,
afternoon.
and I was just, I'm glad she went for the southern accent.
Palms up, yeah, three.
Oh, hi,
I'm
Solia.
sorry, sir, but the prosecution insisted. I don't sound
Wow.
like Solia. I sound like
They barely have enough time.
Given who the victims
Lockboxes.
are,
TikTok. Oh,
Take-
you did not just say that out loud to me.
Bum. Ba-dum, ba-da-ba-da, da-da-da-da. And now we get to the monologue.
Oh, I can talk about this. I have so many things I
Do you
can
want to
talk about.
pause or do you want to let it play out? Because
Let's
it's the last
pause.
part. Oh, you want to pause? Okay.
as inscrutable as it was.
We could pause here. I think, yeah, I mean, in the next 10 seconds, it's going to be the same thing.
Right. Okay,
Um,
then. Get
First,
talking.
just a quick little Easter egg, by the way. I scored this moment, and by score, I mean I composed the track. It's not listed in the credits because we don't have room. I composed the track to this audio. Basically, that's what they do in cinema. We were thinking, why don't we do something like that for case 3? So every now and then, you'll see an occasional scored piece. It won't be obvious because the goal is to just kind of make it seamlessly part of it. But yeah, I scored the monologue here. But talking about the monologue was fun. My first point is I do feel like I owe a bit of an explanation for the monologue. Maybe we should actually keep going because there is a line. The line where she says the actual title is the main one. It's the one that needs explanation.
Wow, I have
Fine.
to. He's making me work so hard on this stream today.
Make it
Dear
work so
Lord.
bad,
Right, let's go. Let's skip. We'll just let the line play out. He makes me pause. It makes me unpause.
I'm so good, guys.
Time to confront it. Perhaps I should have pushed Rainbow harder, or gotten that guard to give us more time to talk.
Yes, Olia. Why did you just rush them?
Of
Disgraceful
course.
behavior. Bad
In
guard.
hindsight,
Worst guard since
Okay, we can
R2.
pause
we never
here.
find
This is the
anyone after
line.
the fact.
Oh, there it is.
Foresight never
She said the
betrayed
thing.
Here's the line, G.
There we go.
She said the thing.
Content force. Guys, look, title drop, roll credits. We meme about that. But
Ding.
Roll credits? Alright, let's get the end of the turnabout going then. Right, but keep talking.
so they're there are 2 points. One is the explanation of the monologue, but the 2 is the explanation of why a monologue and just kind of what we were doing as a writing team. Here, I'm going to point out something that was very funny, and Shannon, you actually pointed this out to me, and it made me think about, why didn't I catch that? And then I realized that I did, and that was the whole point. Isn't it technically wrong for Sonata to say Foresight never before, because that's by definition what Foresight is? And yeah, it is wrong. It is by definition wrong. But when I was writing this monologue, and bear in mind, we've been sitting on this episode for, a while, and this monologue in particular was sitting in the back of my mind for a very long time. The point that I was trying to make wasn't that. It wasn't really about the definition of foresight. My thinking was not everyone and not always, do we have the benefit of having both hindsight and foresight? Many of us are living in the present that's, for lack of a better term, heavy, inundated with information, data, events, things that we just blow past us. We don't understand the significance in the moment because they are happening in them. We can sometimes just not have any bit of information or excitement come out. So we don't always have the luxury of seeing what is, what was, hindsight, foresight. Sonata's point is being told with that idea in mind. It's not about the definition, it's about the application of hindsight and foresight. And you have to also kind of take into account, and I'll get into this as I get into one of the monologue, when she's saying this, the actual time period that she's saying this entire monologue, it's happening from a perspective and time period after the episode, and maybe even after the case. So sometime in the future. So she did not, in the present of this case, have the luxury of foresight. So perhaps that's why she didn't feel like it came to her. It's admittedly a bit of a paradox, but even like a tautological error. But that's kind of the point, It is playing with the language and the application of these ideas and kind of pointing out that what we initially think is the function of hindsight and foresight doesn't always happen when we want them to happen. That is why she says, the thing about hindsight is you don't find it until after the fact. It's why it's 2020. In foresight, you can try to have as much foresight as you want, but when you're in the present, in the moment, are you really guaranteed to have the foresight to know what is going to happen next? No. And that's what she's lamenting. That's point one. That's a really long, pseudo-rambly explanation of why we are, playing around with that. But now I actually want to talk about the monologue as an extension of, the writing team and the writing philosophy that we are now embracing with Case 3. So earlier, I talked about the title, and I want to just elaborate on that a little bit. The reason why we chose to put titles in these episodes was to accentuate the thematic and narrative implications of each episode. And I think that will invite people to regard the titles with a little bit more attention and not just think that, it's the next episode. They'll think about, why are we choosing this to be the actual title? What are we saying with it? Everything that we say, well, there must be some meaning in it, right? The episode title is, of course, taken from this monologue, but in the context of what the monologue is saying, it also serves as a means of, let's say, recontextualizing the entire episode up to this point. As I said, the monologue reveals Sonata is looking back on this moment, but if you recall, as we open the episode with a trial that must be occurring in the past, because, newsflash guys, Overall's dead, but for some reason he's alive in the first scene, she's also therefore, and by she I mean Sonata's also looking back while looking back. This is a frame narrative. A frame within a frame, a story within a story. And there's a lot of power in our decision to make that the structure of not just this episode, but based on this monologue alone, you can further that as the structure of the entire case. This technique lets us play with time. It frees up a lot of interesting narrative space and power. I'd like to think that Scene 1 and Scene 4 are the bookends of Episode 1's first part, with each part in conversation with one another and saying something about the rest. Now, that's just a very specific moment, obviously, in this one moment, right? It's just one moment in an episode. But what I would invite the audience to sort of think about now is this is what we'll be doing going forward with the writing. Part of my mission statement, really, as the new team leader of the writers, was to start incorporating a variety of writing techniques beyond the typical script or game script writing. In Media Res is a great example of, breaking from convention and doing something unconventional. I wanted, as a writer and as an artist, to expand our palette, to engage with the writing in a more hybridized, this is going to sound very elitist, almost Joycean manner, like James Joyce.
Oh god,
James Joyce.
he's going
Joyce.
technical.
Yeah, he knows James Joyce.
He's going technical.
We are pulling now from the phrase that I picked up is the grammar of cinema and theater. This is a quote from the late Carlos Ruiz Zafón, a Spanish artist, writer actually. And I also wanted us to pull from short story techniques from other authors, like Chekhov, Carver, Hemingway. And I wanted us to blend them together to create a more complicated narrative layout, one that, for lack of a better term, approaches literariness. And I want to preface this by also saying, this is not stuff that like I was taught in school. So if people are like, oh my god, he clearly, studied this in school. That's the only reason why he learned about this. No, I didn't. Any of the writers in our team know about this kind of stuff because they consume stories. Anybody who consumes stories can think about writing in this particular way. It's not something that is gatekept, and it shouldn't be behind education. If you like stories and you consume a lot, you'll notice that what we're doing here isn't even that unique. A lot of stories pull off the same kind of thing. We're just doing it with this particular medium. In effect, this was my way of making the writing of Case 3 stand above Case 2, Case 1, and Turnabout Storm. This was me trying to present the writing as an art form. To do that, I believe we need to consider questions of narrative style, rather than simple questions of narrative story. Both are definitely necessary for a story to achieve longevity, but style is an added necessary flair. The dryness and sometimes cookie-cutter level of writing from Golden Age detective fiction can and does deserve a place on the shelf, but in the interest of telling a compelling narrative, must allow style its place at the table. Thus, my thesis and mission statement for the writing team as the current team. We can definitely be stylish without sacrificing story, and we are good at our style, enhance it.
There you go. Wise words have never been spoken. Wiser words have never been spoken on a DC, I'd like to believe. Well done. And again, if you need further proof at how far this team has come since the end of Case 2, I feel like Jarvy's excellent sort of breakdown of how we view things should give you all that give a little bit more of a perspective, a window into our soul, so to speak. And yes, I am tongue-tied because Jarvy is much more eloquent than I. My word, he's just absolutely bamboozled me.
I have that effect, people. Sorry.
I'm going to let the rest of the scene play out. If there's nothing more you want to add,
that's it.
Because
I
we are
could
coming
speak
to
about
the
this
end.
scene more, but I think we'll serve that for an EOJ Talks.
Ooh.
To
Just
Maybe. I
quickly,
don't know.
I'll quickly add on to what Jared has just said. This isn't very different to what Ace Attorney has done before it itself anyway, because I know some people don't particularly like Dual Destinies as a game, but it does play around more with time than any other entry in the series at all. Because the first episode that you actually play is chronologically the penultimate episode. Turnabout Countdown is, as a case, presented as the very first one, but the events themselves don't take place until the very end of the game. I think it's like a few days before the game ends itself, like at all.
That's a good
So it's
point,
definitely something to. It's like Jared said, it's nothing new, really. It's just we're presenting it perhaps in a slightly different way.
No, you're very right, James. You're right to bring that up. I think Dual Destinies. God, I'm trying to remember, because I remember Dual Destinies coming out in 2013 and getting really hyped up for a Phoenix Wright game because I'd fallen into the fandom community at that time, and just the difference, the update it was compared to all the games. I'll be completely frank. I'm not a huge fan of Apollo Justice. This is maybe a controversial statement. Don't quite like it. But in retrospect, when we think about how our story has to combine a lot of different elements and a lot of changes. And this is speaking on a grander scale than just on this particular moment that Jarvy and James have both been talking on. We've had to take a lot of ideas that were very not fleshed out to begin with and have had to expand to a point where we can have a full narrative. And a lot of what you're seeing is in essence a response to that. And a lot of case 3, at least for me, is not necessarily trying to be a box ticking exercise, but we are having to show so much depth in a time period that if we had the opportunity, should have been done in case 2, but we just didn't, because we at the time hadn't taken up enough time to focus on it. And in all fairness, as much as I know you like to lament this way of thinking, James, the nice thing about having so much that needs to be done in case 3 is that it destroys the whole premise of case 3 syndrome in its entirety. But as I say, I know you have strong words about case 3 syndrome as a concept in itself.
It died so long ago.
It's great for us to be able to look at this case now, just these little moments, especially since we've been sitting on this for so long, and go, yeah, this is a whole different way of tackling it, but we're not looking at this as having to force stuff in either. We're letting the world be built in what we can do, from where we started, from what we were given, from how much we've been able to show. In some days, I feel like I'm not actually a director. I'm a fan of another series that's creating his own ideal alongside everybody else here, because of just how much has had to be developed, which is probably the most terrifying thing for a viewer to hear, is that the director is kind of like, I don't really know what the hell I've been making from. But at the same time, it isn't just me, and that should give everyone some reassurance, because if it was just me, oh boy, help us all. We've come so far in spite of what we've had to deal with, and I'm very glad that right now we have this opportunity to demonstrate new methods, new ways of doing things. We bring about a sense of flavor that, whilst may not necessarily be to everybody's liking, or maybe something that people expect, it's going to be something that people will remember. And case 3 is something that I genuinely believe people will remember. And I've said this privately, but I feel like I want to say it now. I will stake my entire reputation that case 3 will match and equal to Turnabout Storm. And I have no objections making that a public statement, because I think of how much effort and love and energy we're putting into this. We will have that quality. And it will take a bit of time, and I don't expect people to believe me just yet, but that's how much faith I have right now. Is that's where I believe we are going to. But, of course, only time will tell. And speaking of time, I really should let us get back into the finish of this particular scene, because we haven't even finished scene 4 yet.
Lulls you into a false sense of
So unpack with scene 4.
how it makes you think it's this innocent thing.
This is fun. This is a little poetic.
Dead.
People don't really talk like this.
No.
And yet,
Oh, and I've got
something
music playing in the
very good
background.
about the speech.
I think it works for Sonata.
Oh yeah. Although, I mean, if any of you know how I write, it's very obvious when I'm writing. They'll help uncover what lies beneath the shadow of time and memory. That's a Jarvy one. That's very obviously me. Sometimes it works its way naturally into the voice, but that kind of very elaborate structure of sentence, that's me. Spot the Jarvy line that made its way through the editing phase.
Wow, Jarvy wrote part of this scene? I would never have guessed. Right. And that's scene 4. So, a lot was done in just that scene, and I think, as Jarvy highlighted, and James, I can't have so many wonderful points this stream, I apologize, but as people have mentioned already, if you are concerned about like the lack of information that has been given because we didn't present a certain thing, it's there. And when we get to the very last thing of this entire episode, I would argue probably the near magnum opus of planning and love and effort, you'll see that, there isn't just a case of where's this, where's that, where's that. There are answers to some things that you can already get just from watching that. So, if people continue want to argue we've missed stuff, or we haven't given this, or we're not showing this. No, we are. Just look, it's there, or it will be. Give us time, please. It's one episode. And, hey, fair enough. If people are agitated by the fact they don't have information, that's great, because that's the whole point of a mystery series, is to create that sense of question. Why is this happening? What is the purpose of this? How did this happen? Why are these things happening? So I don't actually find any disenjoyment of seeing people being annoyed that we haven't done something, because in reality, that's kind of the whole bloody point. We want you to be asking those questions. So,
yeah. It's not like we're hunting back in the final episodes. This is just the first episode. Of course, the mystery would still be just starting.
Right. So let's have a quick. I'm not going to take up too much time. Let's talk about Rainbow Dash, because I know some people have had some comments about that. Rainbow Dash's reaction to Sonata. Why did she act the way she did? Now, I didn't write the scene. Jarvy, you did. So I'm not going to take stuff from it, but I will give
under the bus. Okay.
I will not throw you under the bus. In fact,
that's what I'm here for. I am the real villain of EOJ.
When we think about...
Oh, yes, and that turns someone on the poster.
Yeah, we're talking about Philo, obviously.
My friend. So I will not say anything to that.
So, when talking about Rainbow Dash's engagement with Sonata, it's interesting that a lot of people believe that Rainbow Dash kind of should be given Sonata the green light for just to help because of the circumstances. And the reason I'm so focused on that is because I guess it ties into this element of forgiveness, that ultimately Sonata hasn't really earned Rainbow's forgiveness in many instances. She has done some good stuff for the team, but not Rainbow specifically. And I suppose what we've tried to convey more than anything with that scene, though again, Jarvy, you wrote this, so I won't try to take your words. I won't try to steal your thunder, shall we say, is that you can't just, even if you're in a dire situation, people still have, consequences still come from people's actions. There is still an element of pain, lingering trauma from something that has occurred. And I guess what's kind of fascinating is that people forget how much an event can impact you and how much you yourself will... What's the word I'm looking for? How far you are willing to hold someone to account, even though they may be willing to show remorse. It's
like that one quote from Picard from the original Star Trek Next Generation. If you wear anger long enough, you get used to it.
Yes.
It's smooth leather.
Why Sonata has to do what she does, why she is doing what she is going to do, that's stuff that we'll obviously get to. And why Rainbow doesn't trust her, I think, should be obvious. But the biggest question that some people have, and I just see it now in the chat, so I will directly again go to this. Why isn't Phoenix defending Rainbow? It should be a little bit obvious, but it's because, as Sonata literally says, she volunteered and she's showing that self. And this isn't something.
She's showing you she wants to make amends, and Phoenix is not going to stop her from doing that.
Yeah, Phoenix isn't the kind of guy that would shut her down just because Rainbow might have issue with that.
You can actually check the court record on Rainbow Dash's profile. Sonata actually says that she wants to make amends with her.
Recall also the second time post Turnabout Storm, if you don't count the post credits, the only time that Sonata and Rainbow interacted, 2.5 and actually 2.6, Sonata was not there for Rainbow, and she was there for Scootaloo. But that's one act that Rainbow has no emotional context to beyond the fact she's pissed that Scootaloo's in danger. Another thing that I think people aren't really missing, but which is pretty common for a lot of reactions to characters being disagreeable, I'm not even saying there's a point to, judge. It's just very common. And I was telling GU this. It's as old as Greek theater. It is unreasonable for characters to be aware of the tropes they embody in the stories that they are in. Rainbow is definitely playing into the trope of a grudge, but she wouldn't know that she's playing into the trope of a grudge, but we do, or the audience. But there's this weird affect of humanity, it seems, when it comes to art, to project our knowledge of emotional context and what emotionally should happen in the ideal situation with a relationship or a scene or a moment of tension onto the unavoidable and unalterable tragedy that is a work of fiction. We seem to think that if we think and feel and act in a way that is true and powerful, it can affect the narrative. And then we get upset when characters don't receive us. They don't resonate in that way. And yet that is the whole point of theater. They do this as old as Greek. The whole thing with Oedipus and the whole concept of a Greek choir. The whole point of a Greek choir was to let the audience engage with the fake production and feel like their emotions are being heard by someone in the production. We moved away from that in modern storytelling, but it is a very old phenomenon. It's very interesting to see it here.
Eloquently put again, Jarvy. And so, wrapping this point up, as others have wonderfully said as well, don't just assume that characters will dive into that immediate aspect. There is a lot there that we want to show. There is a lot more to these characters' depth than I think a lot of people are credit for. And one of our great, and this is another thing that Jarvy and I spoke about recently, but it's kind of how we want to present stuff. We don't want to just have scenes where characters respond or act in a way that yields that particular emotion anymore. We want people to feel like everyone is, for lack of a better term, alive, and that there is more to a person experiencing a particular emotion in a scene because that scene calls for that particular emotion. There is lingering damage from events, maybe events that have happened recently, maybe events in the long distant past. And, only time will tell in this series which events are the most damaging for different people and what some people are willing to do just to, rectify or to achieve the justice that they believe is just. So yeah, keep an eye on, don't just assume a character acts away for the simple reason that they should or shouldn't. Yeah, there is more.
We are bad. Give us a little credit, guys.
But yes, all deep thoughts aside, let us return to levity and to our wonderful friends over on the other side. Would this technically actually count properly as Turnabout the other side now because they are on the other side? Me funny?
No, because Edgeworth. We don't have Edgeworth.
Oh, well, we got half of Edgeworth, so fuck it, counts. Yeah, exactly.
We have Sonata, we have Chess. That's enough Edgeworth for us.
We have Sonta. And yes, so the nice thing about this, and again, an interesting aspect that confused a lot of people, is the fact that we are doing two, in effect, two cases for one. So, scene 5, scene 5, la da da, to quote a wonderful Vespio. This this scene rounds out the episode quite nicely by just introducing us to the fact that there is more going on, but also highlights why this is the Apollo and Sonata case. Which, honestly, before we get into it, I'm so proud that no one, again, harking back to your point about no one guessing that Phoenix would be the co-counsel, I'm quite glad that we hid this for so long, like how long we did, about the fact that there was going to be a bit of a split, so to speak, and it wasn't going to be a Phoenix, it wasn't going to be Apollo and Sonata working together. So big sort of props to us, I suppose. A little bit of a shameless self-promotion.
By the way, I am a little disappointed that we didn't get Apollo in Cloudsdale. That would have been hilarious.
Well, we've got someone that's afraid of heights there.
I want to be mean, Bruno. I don't want to give Apollo more trauma. That's Capcom's job. I'm not taking her.
What do you mean? You are already planning to like 10 more backstories for him.
Let's get into the scene. Let's get into the scene. Right, G? Right?
Maybe.
Right? $20? Oh, look, the first time stamp.
The whole episode. I know, in scene 5. Again, another revolutionary thing.
Hey, look, it's Trucy.
Hello, it's Kaylin and Webb, our Trucy and Apollo, respectively.
This is the first time Trucy's theme is actually played since the very first episode, I think.
Wow. That is a fun fact. Dear Lord.
I bet he's doing this on
Isn't this also technically the first investigation with Trucy and Apollo in years?
They had one off-screen in case 2 of VOJ, but we don't count off-screen shit.
Oh my
So,
god.
yeah. 17
So
years.
revolutionary, guys.
Look.
This scene is also really good because it's so funny.
Yes, this is again that comedy aspect we talked about. Like, there was some good lines before, but this is where we wanted to bring in the levity and the humor. Remembering.
Sister.
Never thought we'd end up here.
What?
And
Huh?
definitely not for the
Scene 1, scene 5?
time.
Married?
Bookends?
Straws and bad omens?
Oh, and Iron Shadow as Spike again, yes.
Coincidences
G, you actually mentioned it. You don't particularly like Apologists compared to the other titles. I don't either. But having Apollo and Trucy together, I think that was something we kind of had to do because it's been so long. And even though I don't enjoy Apollo Justice as much as the other games, I know why people like it. It's the dynamic they have that doesn't really exist in any of the other games that they're in. You know, just having them together felt right.
Yes. No, it's a great dynamic, and especially for how Apollo is. And again, keep an eye on characters' motivations, people. It's a good, I guess, translator for a sense. Also, most destructive line this fucking episode. Jesus Christ, people. That line still hurts even reading it now.
Nobody wants to be friends with a blackmailer.
I'm surprised that you haven't argued.
The dynamic is great.
Part of the new improvements in rendering is the blur effect under the text box, but I did highlight that we went a little too far for 3-1. You can barely see the underside of Spike and Sweetie Belle, and they are so tiny that it really stands out.
You're tiny.
Let us have a
It will be improved.
Yeah.
It will be
Oh,
improved.
it was our first time, right? I mean, we have time to iterate and improve.
Well, this is the thing.
Modders.
We had to work in After Effects with this. Again, After Effects does a lot of this sort of mumbo jumbo funkiness. So yeah, seeing it in Final Render was the main product, and I can confirm that it's a lot less aggressive in episode 2. Also, Cadet as our Applejack, if people have forgotten.
It's so good. It's so southern. It's so hospitality. It's like, oh.
I really enjoy the team we've got here, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But a familiar face.
It's look who it is.
And
It's
he's
the guy.
updated as well. He's so modern. I must also give
Even
credit
Sweetie's
to...
like, he is? Huh? What?
Sweetie.
Great job, Apollo. You didn't tell anybody your plan? Wow.
It was...
My name's
It's so... I think the best part about this case as well is just being able to kind of revisit a lot of the Case 1 tropes and also bring back people who, you know, we haven't seen for so long, like Zapple! It's great to have Zapple back. At least for this episode.
I'd also like to point out, we skipped the line on screen, but you saw it. It was the left-right joke. The VAs thought I did that. I didn't.
That was a me.
I would
That was a
never
me.
write something like that. G, on the other hand.
Look, I saw the opportunity and I was like, oh, there's gotta be an Apollo swip in here. Come on, please, please, please.
Yeah, I know, but Julius was like, oh, Jared wrote this. Oh, I'm sarcastic, but I'm not that bad.
Until I found out it was G, I actually thought it was you, Jared.
Oh my god, guys, I'm not that clever. My humor is in references, it's not in that. If I'm doing wordplay, it's because I want to be poetic, not punny.
Oh, no, didn't you have something to say about Trucy?
Oh, did no. I am so sorry. Let's just wait for Trucy to appear on screen. There we
she
go.
is.
Perfect timing.
Ah,
I planned
very
that so
That's
well.
the face that Null was making.
I wrote something down. I gotta find it. Here we are. Okay. Yeah, the Trucy vectors. I was in charge of a couple of them. Making these was I found the 10th circle of hell. I found it in Adobe. To really like set the mood and describe the learning curve. I do have some like a really messed up looking Trucy images. It should be on. Yeah, there they are. This is like a nice visual meal for your eyes. I had to learn Adobe Animate pretty much on the fly, and it doesn't help that I'm pretty sure Adobe had it out for me since the beginning with constantly deleting progress, which apparently was a problem for people like all across the team, and I think it crashed at least twice.
That's
And it's no
low
help
amount.
that glad it's I myself, I'm like a really slow learner, and the vectorizations, they lean more into, I guess, technical application rather than purely artistic application, which I hope that makes sense. Just fiddling with the line tools and learning how to set up symbols and making sure everything is smoothly set up for automation. Thank God I had like the best teachers in Shannon and Soundman. I think the first two poses, which were the generic happy pose and the surprise pose, don't quote me on that. They took me like a month plus some change to wrap up just because, oh my god, that learning curve is curvy. It sounds easy just having to trace an image, but it's like really deceptively simple. It was interesting though, I guess from an artist standpoint rather than a technical one, seeing how subtle differences in the irises can turn a pose from looking kind of dead-eyed to actually alert, or posing the mouth shapes in subtly different ways to make the lip syncs go from choppy to smooth. I'm constantly mesmerized, and blown away from the lip sync alone in this series. It was an absolutely fantastic idea, and just being able to see the art move like that, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's great seeing that emotion.
Right? Yeah, it's just, it's cool. While working on the vectorization, I think I pulled my first all-nighter since high school. It was like just me and my McDonald's coffee. Honestly, us against the world. I used to be terrified of working on these because the last thing I wanted was for them to look like crap, which I've actually never had the mentality with the backgrounds. I guess that's more my wheelhouse. I'm very happy to contribute more, though. It's definitely more nerve-wracking, but I love doing them now. The eyes, I think, are my favorite part, and the Ace Attorney style has always been super expressive. I like trying to keep up with it. That's all I got.
Yeah, just as a small addition, this scene also taught us that we should not start editing with a partially complete rig.
I know, right? Yeah, I heard that was wrong.
Trucy caused a lot of issues at the start of editing this scene. I want to apologize sincerely to Sib, who I had assigned this scene to. He suffered a lot trying to get Trucy to work before I took over to help him out in this last stretch. But we got a fix up Trucy some weeks down the line, and I implemented her there, and suddenly everything looked massively improved.
Look perfectly smooth, yeah.
Absolutely no errors. We should have kept this version actually of Trucy. This would have been great. Just absolutely terrify everyone on the initial premiere with her eyes just wonky all over the place, or
Yeah, we should have.
Joke's on you. This is what
They
they
are
look by default.
changelings, remember?
that nose though. Honestly, that is definitely in your walls type of mentality. But there you go, people. The
All that's missing is just like the thriller music or something.
Unfortunately, I don't have that prepared, but I would otherwise have it up. But there you go. There's a there's the joys of what happens with behind the scenes. People have to suffer so that you don't have to. And before I suffer anymore, I'm going to get that image off the screen and get us back to a regular, nice looking Trucy. But thank you very much for sharing that, Null, though. I feel your pain so much. I'm so
No
sorry.
problem.
Most? You ponies really think Rarity did it?
For some reason, I saw people thinking that this line in particular was Private saying he didn't believe that Rarity was innocent, even though his previous line he said it directly that he thought Rarity being accused was absurd.
It was a bit of a change from the initial draft, I will admit, because upon re-reviewing, I was thinking it feels weird that everybody trusts this pony. But as we've seen, Manhattan is filled with a lot of different personalities, and especially what's been going on, talking about the fact that consequences happen, it just gave you right to believe that no one would have no faith. Wasn't right to believe that everyone would just immediately have faith, even if she's a high-strung fashionista.
That's what we're here for, Mr. President.
But yeah, people think
would be really good too.
Help us do that.
Of course. How may I be of assistance?
Could you tell us about?
By the way, this is Natsume's theme.
For starters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changed up his track. Previously it was Grossberg's. We figured that since he's had a change of heart, we could just change it over to someone else.
I actually, when I played the Great Ace Attorney, right, and finally met Natsume, I hated him. I know he's a real guy, he's a real author, and it's like a slight pastiche of, the actual author. I hated him. I was like, God, this dude is the worst character in this game. I hated his song, too. But I like it here, which is weird.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Stosuke's very, you either love him or you hate him, I find.
I think I DM'd you, James, and I was like, God, this guy's the worst. Does he die? No, he comes back.
He was actually supposed to be in way more of the game as well.
But I know why, because culturally he's a really big.
Yeah, he means a lot.
So they were friends.
I think he's the first real life person to be a character in Ace Attorney.
He is.
What do you mean? Sherlock Sholmes is totally real.
I'm surprised. Now that I think about it.
Why is that?
Well, I know that.
But yeah, I didn't like Natsume Sasuke at all. But his theme here works Playwright, and it kind of feels like Playwright has grown a little. And then when I was listening to, when I was planning out the OST with James, and I listened to the piece over and over to get the timing right, I actually grew to really like it. I think the opening is just so goofy that it makes me, raise my shoulders, and it's awkward. But then it gets
the music
good.
you always hear.
Yeah. But if you just let it play, it's like it gets good.
Mr. Hawkins?
And then,
oh my god, these
references.
Yeah. This is some reference that I don't think anybody would get, but those are three real actors.
Yeah, Mark
Bonified, obviously. Mr. Hopkins, Anthony Hopkins, Mr. Gatiss, Mark Gatiss.
Mark Gatiss, yep.
And Miss Coltman is Olivia Coltman. And they are all in a film called The Father, which is very good. It's not very happy, but it's a very good film.
We're so full of smart references.
There we go. If you never understood the reference before, you do now. They are three actual actors ponified from The Father. Get that on the
three that have been on stage as well, so it fits.
Oh.
Gotta apologize, Trucy.
We are that
also, the
deep in our
theme
references.
that's playing right now in the episode, this is the Pantomimia theme, Pantomime of Mystery. Fun fact, you won't hear this because you won't hear it, but it is there. The bass melody and some of the bass notes, this is just Prelude in E minor by Chopin. I disguised the song with Estella's main melody, but this is literally just a classical piece with a jazz riff to it. No one's gonna notice that because I am a nerd, but Chopin Prelude E minor is one of my favorite classical pieces. I snuck it in there, and it's now the backing melody officially in EOJ. Haha! Whoops.
There's a very small
really
reference to Apollo being an orphan. He knows what it feels like.
Yep.
I really like the theme. It has a very mysterious air to it that really suits this whole this character.
Yep.
There's a lot of mystery.
A mystery, a pantomime of mystery, you might say.
Ho-ho!
So clever, guy. Can you tell that I've been on this production for 4 years? Losing my mind.
Really?
I'm Frank.
Yeah,
First time.
4
Do
years.
you remember if there was anything off about them before then? Or if they mentioned that they were planning on going somewhere?
Honestly, no. But it has
Also, I
been
like to
a while.
imagine
Oh.
that this
And,
secretary in the
as you
background
know,
is like,
a lot
I
has happened
fucking hate my
since then.
job. Can't clock out
I
yet.
can't ask
Aggressively
someone
writing
stop.
fan fiction of how
See if
she
they
is just
remember
going
anything.
to,
If you'd like.
for lack of a better term,
Playwright
overall
in her sleep.
concept her playwright.
So honestly, I don't see how
There you go,
there's
that's case 4.
sharing on Rarity's case.
Oh, by the way,
Overall,
it was quite
really was
interesting
a
what
sister
Playwright said
playwright
about the
said.
sisters being missing.
Maybe Mr.
I know.
Yeah, people
Yes.
accuse us of getting that wrong too, and it's like, well, if you watch scene 1,
It's nobody's there.
Nobody's there.
Hmm.
It was all just a fever dream. Sonata was just, I can't even make that joke yet. God damn it, we're not that far along.
She passed out in the prison center.
Then name it.
Would you allow us to investigate the theater again?
it was all in her mind. It was imagination. She was playing.
It was
mind
all a
puzzle.
dream.
It was.
Both you and the police have already combed it over extensively. I can't imagine you'd find anything new.
What about
If people
where
have forgotten
overall
why
concept
Rarity was
is?
arrested, which is
I
also a
reckon there
comment,
must be something there.
I refer you back to 2.9.
Story, I'm afraid.
That's all I can
Police
really
investigated
say.
his and Kiko's apartment from top to
It's all
bottom
that
before-
Oh,
goddamn
man.
Sherlock Sholmes' fault.
Boy, folks.
Well,
Yeah.
ain't that
We
a
are
Yep,
absolutely
you gotta
soaking in
kick him
spoilers.
The head or two, Fallout reference, because Fallout
Hey.
is Fallout.
That's my kind of humor, guy.
Well, what about? No,
It's a dumbass reference. It's me.
Hey, wait. Don't shoot yourself down before you even said anything. Do you have an idea?
And this is Apollo showing empathy to a kid who really just wants to help. That was the whole thing. Why do people hate Sweetie Belle?
Because nobody wants to be friends with a blackmailer. You've already said
God,
this,
they
Jarvy.
hate her almost as much as Rainbow hates Sonata. It's kind of.
You know exactly why.
Yeah, I know exactly why I wrote that, but still, guys, he's trying to help.
It's very interesting writing Apollo after, what, 2 years of writing Athena? Because they are very different characters.
Oh, this line. Oh, this line. Now, I don't want to say in retrospect we should have probably vetted ourselves a bit more. In retrospect, we should have doubled down. However, I can at least confirm that yes, that line is supposed to allude to something. No, it's probably not as bad as you're thinking. Yes, it's still going to be pretty, for lack of a better term.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, just, you know, be good with your theories, but also simultaneously, I can't say yes or no to them.
Still, I thought I asked anyway.
Society for certain activities and all that implies.
Exactly.
I mean,
Maybe they just sit around in a room and talk about their driver's licenses or something. It's pretty weird, right?
Just compare business cards like American Psycho.
Can you give us the address?
Oh, this upcoming line, however, another favourite of mine.
Try and be quick about it.
Why? Not that we're about to go at this at a snail's
Not this
pace.
line
I
so
love
well.
the
I
Southern
do not
Reserve.
remember my line
Reason we
pacing.
oughtn't dilly-dally?
Hang on, it's
The
coming up.
citizens
The
are
lead
It's coming,
detective
it's
is there
coming.
right now.
It's coming.
Part of his investigation, he said. I had to show him there
Who's the
myself.
lead detective?
He said he knew
This
where
one.
it was,
I love it.
and then started running in
Ah.
the opposite
Goof.
direction.
How to
Sherlock.
introduce a character so well.
Yeah.
Questions for him.
Sherlock Holmes coming through.
Yeah.
Detective?
And
So that
for people who
means-
haven't seen, you need to go back to
Yeah.
2-8.5
Probably the
for,
guy who found
you
the
know,
evidence
important
leading to
information
Rarity's
maybe.
arrest.
Just, you know, friendly hint.
I ought
Just
to
a
give him
tiny
back
little
my money.
nudge in the right direction.
Hey now, he was just doing his job. Don't you be fixing to yell at him when we head on over there.
I'd love to help you all out more, but sadly I must be off. In spite of this tragedy,
I do love
the
his
work in
addiction to the
never
theatre.
stops.
It's great to have
We
him back,
understand.
even if
Thank
He
you.
is a workaholic like all of us in this call. Oh god. Oh
I wonder
no.
what that detective
Oh,
will
no.
say when we turn up.
I'm really happy how this music turned out.
Mm,
The timing was really nice.
Yeah, it just worked so well.
Honestly, it's not even an apology I want.
Monologue number
This
2!
case already feels as murky as the last.
Just a slight one. Although actually in this case, because it's an internal
I
thought,
know
this is
Rarity
technically classified as an internal
That's
monologue.
what I need to focus
So
on.
this leads to the question, when Sonata's doing her monologue, where is she and who is she saying it to? I mean, clearly it's by herself because it's a monologue. But
Rarity is the
why
only
is Apollo
one
just
that
thinking it
matters.
now? And you also notice that this is a monologue told in present time, whereas others is told many, many, many X amount of times in the future.
Ready, Equestria. Here comes justice.
Here comes justice. That line was absolutely required.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause on these people for a little bit.
Oh my
because
god, who's that? It's
Oh man, I wonder who those could be.
It's Pikachu.
It's
So-
equity and equity.
Gosh, take it.
Bruno, I'm gonna strangle you.
All right.
Equity or Sonata, call it.
So, before
I'm
we
gonna
get
kill you,
into the wonderful, the next thing that I'll as I say, really defines the episode, but can't define this episode because obviously it's a credit sequence, so it's going to appear at every single episode. Let's take some questions from the chat related to Scene 5. And if anyone has anything they want to say as well.
Scene 5.
So yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask now. And anyone who is here with me live, if you've got anything you want to quickly add or say before questions come in, just make it so.
We have an interesting structure with this episode, actually. We open with a fragment. We have a slightly more elaborate set of events, and then we end with a fragment. I think that's a very interesting just structure in terms of narrative. It leads very nicely into the next episode. In previous episodes, things were very... While they would end on, cliffhangers, they're very, tight, basically. Like, there's no actual movement in the episode between story elements and plot parts. So we just have a nice little contrast there with this one.
I think we've already kind of tackled the question that's just dropped up here, but why did we decide to go straight into the middle of case 3 with no context what led up to Rainbow's arrest? Story.
Did you know you were going to cut the episode there the whole time, or were there iterations where it ended differently? Good question.
That is a good question, actually.
I think it was Destro and I who did the very initial draft for this episode. It was always the intention to end it there, I think.
Mm-hmm. We definitely had the idea going in with case 3 that we'll ping pong narratives.
Yeah. Sort of reminiscent of third case of Ace Attorney Investigations 2, where instead of going from the past to the present, it's two present day cases occurring simultaneously.
I think,
like I said, frame narratives allows you to play with time and do these weird things. Multiple narrative threads. It's pretty cool. Try it out in your own stories.
Might have answered this earlier. How long would you say the lip sync? So yeah, we did mention it earlier, but lip syncing is automated thanks to some wonderful script writing, action script writing, or I don't really know what type of coded writing it is, but it's automated, which means that we can have more accurate. So it doesn't take that long. But as I also mentioned, one of the elements of polish that we now have to keep an eye out for is what's known as dropped mouth shapes, which just basically means that when a character speaks, their mouth may not open whilst they're speaking, and they're very hard to catch. But when you know it, you'll get an instinctual reaction to go back and rewatch a particular line, and you'll spot it. There may be one or two that slip through in episode 1 to see if you can spot them.
The good thing is that the code gets a lot of them perfectly, so it's not a lot of fiddling we have to do. And well, fixing them is nice. At the end of the day, if one slips past us all the way through polish, it's not the worst thing.
This is the worst possible thing.
Shut up! You're in jail.
Oh no, this is the worst possible thing.
Here's a good question, and we'll make this the last question before we get into the big moment. What do you think would be the biggest hurdle to tackle with ping pong between crimes from a writing perspective?
Oh,
I think just people keeping up with both cases at the same time, because
bloated.
Like I mean,
how do you avoid bloat? Yeah.
Yeah, just people just keeping track of everything, which is why it's a good thing we've got a court record working.
Check it and make sure that we know exactly what was discovered in the last episode. I think part of it also too is how do you give proper room to every narrative so that it doesn't feel like one is an afterthought?
Yeah.
And in this episode, you know, we only have one scene in the past and then one scene with Apollo and then 3 scenes with Sonata. So quantifiably that feels uneven, and yet it doesn't. It feels earned in a way. It feels appropriate. I think that's something less that can be put down to technique and more to instinct.
Because of how different scene 1 is to what's occurring in the present day.
Exactly. So yeah, I think the most challenging thing is, you know, as James said, keeping track of everything and then also making sure that the everything that you have does not feel unevenly distributed.
Okay. Right. Well, we've got one more thing we need to dissect, and I think it would only be right to let the whole thing play out and we make comments where necessary. However, there is... so we've held on it for a while. Let us get into the last major surprise, which I don't think any... Again, we've said a lot of things that people haven't expected, but this, well, suffice to say, I think it caught everyone by surprise when it actually happened. And even from a production standpoint, it was absolutely remarkable that it actually came to fruition, because there was a long journey to get here and a lot of moments where it may not have happened. But let's all watch our names appear one more time, shall we? Now, this entire process, it's no mean thing to say that it took a full year. This whole thing.
Me. That's the
Look,
guy.
Ma. Look,
Oh,
Gary,
that's also
there I
me.
am.
That's the guy.
All of these shots had to be planned, they had to be drawn, they had to be animated, coloured, and the music was composed well in advance, which helped. But suffice to say, oh boy, was this a uphill battle. And a lot of props need to be given to 3 people in particular. Obviously, first of all, Salman for the conceptualization. Secondly, to Shannon for assisting with basically helping to lead the main developments. And then obviously, combined third place with Jarvy, Jik and Al for the music. A lot of really...
Cadet 2 for singing it.
See, I can Cadet. There we go, that's it. Cadet, that was it. And there was a 4th person I was going to mention. Cadet as well for singing, as you can all wonderfully hear. This whole credit sequence has a lot, though, and we won't be able to dissect any of it because that would just be disastrous for any mystery, but you should be looking at stuff in this credit sequence. There is a lot of things here.
This is my favorite
all the
shot
hints, so many
overall.
hints.
Oh.
In fact, in the little opening 20 seconds with all those characters who appear, I think that's a very important shot, you know, for no apparent reason. I don't have biases.
Who knows?
Why would I want you to look there?
At some point, we will probably do a breakdown of this, just like I will break down the poster one day, because that took a godloadly amount of time as well to plan out, as Shannon will remember. But, yeah. Oh.
It's the
end result.
We have cakewalk.
We have... yeah, that's just cake. That's all cake, guys. Don't overthink it. Oh, and the 5,000 pony theatre as well. Oh, bloody hell. That's like one comment I will
And
make
we just
is...
ignore the problem that invites. We get away with it.
And there we are. Oop. So...
That credit sequence!
I'm going to quickly just have the special thanks up because everyone on that special...
Yes.
The
So-
special thanks. Yes, you take it,
So
Shannon.
fun fact. Everybody on the left side of that special thanks are the animators who assisted in creating this credit sequence. So, to start off with, it was always the plan to update the credit sequence for Case 3 because, well, the credit sequence for Case 2 was centered around Case 2. But for this one, we decided to, do a bit more of an overview, do it for the whole series, and just lead into the potential mysteries to uncover. And then we got to the actual planning stages, and that's where things started to, well, fall apart. The organization was horrid. The department itself, the cutscene department, went through a lot of leader changes, and eventually it got to me, and I'm just like, okay, we are getting this done by the end of the year, or so help us. And no joke, if we weren't able to get this done by the end of the year, no credit sequence, none of this. The song would still be there, but it would just be fancy images, no animation, nothing like this. Ugh, yeah. And for the animation of this particular, for this credit sequence, it was essentially a 4-step process. So first we started out, after the storyboard was done, first we started out with like doing rough and keyframes, and then we did breakdowns, and then we did in-betweens. And for your animation majors out there, yes, that sounds very weird. Normally you would do in-betweens and then breakdowns, but hey, that's how it was done. Anyways, and then after that, we went to flatline, and then we just went to flat colors. All the shading was done in After Effects, courtesy of Soundman. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, and what you see on screen right now is the shot of poor Stella getting shocked by something and then trying to cover her face. Her face from what? Who's to say? I ain't spoiling. And no, you can't ask me.
You're right, though. The process for this was dramatic. Yeah, we did set a hard deadline at the end of the year to get it ready, because we knew that if we weren't careful, things would just, well, it just wouldn't. It would just drag on. Thankfully, everyone in the credits team really pulled through. There were some good efforts as well by our graphic artists, YDGeon and Tyler, who also contributed several shots. It was a Herculean effort, and a lot of lessons have been learned about animation. We really, really, really underestimated the need and what needed to be done, and it's a lesson that we're taking forward for next time. It's also kind of, and this, this won't count as a spoiler. We aren't going to be doing animated post-credit scenes. That's not to say post-credit scenes won't happen. We are not doing them ever again, though, because of what we experienced with this process, truthfully.
I'm afraid this is the last thing that was done by the cutscene department. Anything else going forward, it's either going to be just rigs or stills. And
a lot of really awesome stuff. And this is just, I can't shut up, but a certain Bonds of Justice episode, maybe the inaugural one, has shown some remarkable ingenuity in how we can use just simple stills for stuff. So for us as a team and for our planning, it is, and just for everybody's enjoyment as well. Like, ironically enough, the writing team and I were having a good discussion earlier today to discuss post-credit scenes for future episodes. And the scale and scope we can achieve now is so much greater because we're not trying to make things fancy like we did in Case 2, where, as people may remember, 2-8.5, bloody hell, I messed that up, 2-8.5 was supposed to be a post-credit scene, but we released it as a standalone for 2.6, but we kept getting delayed, and we ended up having to do standalone, and it ruined the position of it. So what we've learned is there's no point in trying to go fancy if it destroys the story, and a lot of what we already have is really awesome anyway. So yeah, there won't be any fancy animations, like 2D animations I should say. There was still always going to be fancy pony rigging, but this is, for at least Case 3, the last big hurrah thing that we'll see in terms of fanciness. And I think, in all fairness, considering what we've gotten out of it, bloody well makes up for any of the post-credit scenes in Case 2. Not to say that those didn't have effort too, but this was a whole nother beast, and it really does show. So I've got to give props to everyone in the cutscene team and graphic artist team, and again, and to the musicians as well for a wonderful piece of work. So thank you, everybody there. Well done. Really, truly
comments
well done.
on the video even saying that they would always go back to the credits scene just to watch the credits and listen to them. And I think that is the hallmark of the culmination, really, of the work put into it from all the teams that were involved. We did something great, and yeah, it sucked, and I won't lie and say like I was happy throughout all of it, but for what it's worth, people like what we did, and I think that, I don't want to say that measures in equal measure or weight to the pain we went through, but it shows that it wasn't all for nothing. If people can look back on the credits and the song and the sequences and just love it, then I think that is itself worth reaping.
It's very interesting how we've started to mirror Ace Attorney yet again by using cutscenes quite heavily to begin with, like with Dual Destinies and Great Ace Attorney Adventures, and then the following entry saves it for when it's really important and cuts back on them drastically and only uses them for moments that people would really remember, as opposed to using them like quite willy-nilly.
It helps.
Yeah.
It really does help.
The gist of it is, we don't need to make a cutscene what could be a still or a normal conversation.
True. It's all about making things mean, and yeah, I'm sure at some point when we get an opportunity to really break this down, I may even make it like its own like separate video potentially at some point, because I feel like there's so much that needs to be broken down in this and the process, and I'm sure Shannon and a lot of the other people who are still around from the cutscene team would love to kind of like break down the workload and the thinking behind it. Unfortunately, we don't have time for that today, but yeah. You know, harking back to that point about how much energy we put into this, you know, this entire DC, I think it's quite remarkable if we just take a second, everyone here who's like talking, we've spoken about changing writing, changing direction, changing and updating models, adding multiple poses, adding a whole new mechanic, adding a mostly fully animated credit sequence, new music, original soundtracks. Like, it only has really just dawned on me now, which may be a bit weird, how much we've done just in a single episode, in terms of just bringing ourselves to the forefront. And the best part is that I know that this is just the start, and we all know that this is just the start, and this is, you know, this isn't where we haven't peaked, because there are a lot of things from this episode that I really wish we had done differently, especially when it came to the processes of polishing and planning ahead for what we needed to do, mostly just from the production side. So the fact that I know that we can still achieve amazing results like this and yet still have more room to grow, well, it's just wonderful. And I feel like that's the one message where I want this DC to be about. You know, it literally is hindsight and foresight, because we are looking back on this and going, wow, how much have we grown? But also we've got the foresight to know exactly what we need to do better for the future episodes. And I guarantee you that each episode is still just going to be a little bit of an improvement, a little bit of iteration. And that's why I said that statement I made earlier, is that this will be equal to at least Turnabout Storm, because we're not just going to stop. We're just going to go up, and we're not going to stop until we get to the end of this damn case and make everyone recognize, yeah, we have heart and we have determination, and there is a lot of skilled people here. So yeah, that's my little ramble aside. I'm going to also get poor old Estella off the screen. I think she's had too much time to be, looked at.
Scared.
We are now at the end of this director's commentary. There is not really much more that needs to be said. Unless anyone else has anything that they would like to add briefly before we wrap up.
Look forward to 3-2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Look forward.
And who will appear there?
Exactly. you already know that there are 2 new faces. I say new because, well, technically one is slightly old. The other one, however, is new. And if anyone wants a further hint, it's not too much of a secret, but let's just say that they maybe already have been shown off somewhere else. You may want to go and check the other materials. Oh, that's another thing. Have a good guess at who they could be. And don't just take the obvious answers, because I will be upfront right now. The answers I'm seeing are, for lack of a better term, disappointing at who they could be. Maybe think a bit outside the box, because who knows? You may start putting some pieces together on who else may be coming.
Turn your thinking around, as they say.
Turn around.
Everybody knows I get a little bit... I'm not going to sing. Okay, right. I think we should begin to wrap this up. So, let's get the proper tracks to see this off. But first, again, thank you everyone for being on this stream. I want to thank all of my guests again, Shannon, Jarvy, Bruno, Null, and James. Thank you so much for spending, your Sunday evening with me to talk about this, wonderful pilot for the new standards. And I like to refer to it as a pilot, but Jarvy has given me a better term for it as more sort of like a good palate cleanser, because in a sense we have gone from a whole different way of working to a whole new way of creating. And I cannot wait to show everybody more of what is in store. To give everyone a little bit of motivation, can confirm that there will be an episode in February. I won't say when. I'll leave it to you all to be thinking about when it could be, but I can confirm that we have an episode ready for February. So we will be back next month, ready to continue the story. And so far, as things stand, we are looking like we are going to achieve that 1 episode a month goal, but of course time will only tell. But we are currently on track. So yeah, nothing else I have to say. Thank you so much all for being here. Genuinely, it's always a pleasure to be able to talk about this wonderful series of ours. And I feel like there's only one last thing we all have to do.
Yes.
If everybody is ready, and I'm not going to do it like I did on the pre-premiere.
Every time.
I'm going to count down from 3 this time, just to make it easier for everyone, because I know I kind of screwed you all. So, thank you everyone for joining us.
Stop at 1 or you stop at 0?
I will say 1 and we can all go. So,
wait, we go at 1 or then we go after 1?
We go at 1. So,
that's just going down 2.
You're just going to keep me going forever now, aren't you?
Yeah.
You won't let me sleep. Right. Thank you everybody for your time again. We shall see you all in February. So everyone, team, from 3, from down from 3, 3, 2, 1.
Objection!